I better get ready. Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us on another edition of Their Side. We're here today at Penguin's Goliath Skate Shop, and we are going to be interviewing two notorious brothers, who I have with me, Grant Sammut and Dean Sammut. Also got the fantastic Mr. Penguin over here, who you would know from the previous Their Side interviews, and we're going to be talking to these guys about their story about skating in Melbourne and growing up in Melbourne and the skate scene. And all sorts of other shenanigans.
Yeah, there's a few shenanigans along the way. So.
Which one's Dean? Which one's Grant?
Have we got Grant? Dean.
We made it. We made it.
Dean. Penguin.
But it should be Dean.
Grant. Oh, of course. All right, okay.
And it starts already.
No, that's...
First minute.
First minute. Didn't even last a minute. That's fantastic. Okay, so you guys know a little bit about what the series is about. I've
been watching it. There's been some awesome stuff.
There has,
going to be. I'm a little disappointed because it's going to be hard to follow up after Shane's one.
After Shane George, yeah. And I was doing some yard work today, and I was listening to all of hitch up with a bit of a question to start off with.
Before you do, I'd like to also add in about the previous editions. Although it's only relatively new and getting its feet, it's been fantastic to hear people sharing their stories. And it's great to be able to connect to some of those stories. And even more, I felt quite humble to be asked to come and do this, and I think Grant's the same. But also even more humble when people like Pete's interview and Shane's interview have mentioned us in their interviews and stuff, and you go, oh yeah, actually we've been around for quite some time and have had an influence over those years as well, so that's kind of cool. And it's good to be able to then now share our story to, again, hopefully we'll put some names in there and people will go, oh yeah, I remember that stuff, and the stuff that we've been able to do.
Some of that stuff's like
money
really
hasn't dropped into PayPal yet, Dean.
No, yeah, there's plenty of product back there. We'll be good.
Yeah, some of that stuff's like, it's really linked back a whole heap of memories for me. Like people are mentioning stuff and I'm like, I forgot about that whole era. Like, different sessions or different people or different groups or little stories that happened that were pretty amusing at the time and you just forget about completely. But so it's interesting. But the fact that Aaron's come up with this format to Aaron.
Big props.
Everyone's got to give a shout out to Aaron. He's come up with this format to actually get all this stuff together and get it off the ground. It's actually quite an amazing thing. Already it's brought out a heap of stories and everything, and it's already enriching people's lives just from remembering this stuff. So
there's also a big crew of people back here as well.
All these guys are doing
which is unusual that we have that many people back there and people don't know how much goes into it. Yeah. But we didn't get any applause from these people. What's going on?
Yeah, what's up?
We'll do it later. Okay. You're right. Big patchwork quilt, little bits of stories here, little bits of stories there.
Yeah.
And if you know some of the players involved, it starts to sort of bring it all to life. And it's really cool. How did you get into skateboarding?
It's a long story because it was a long time
You've
ago.
got about an hour, so short, right?
Because our journey, it's 35 odd years long, so that's quite a long time. And I remember going to a skate park recently and getting out of the car, skating for 5 minutes, and the little kid comes up and says, oh, how long have you been skating? I go, 5 minutes. Because you don't want to tell him the real answer. And you go, no, man, how many years? You? And he's like, oh, I'm 15. And you're like, geez, like more than double the time you've been on this earth, I've been skating. And, they can't get their head around that because for them, that's the whole, their dad's life and beyond, for getting started, when I very first started, in fact, I've got my first board over there, thanks to Hefty. For those who know Hefty.
So I'm going to grab that board.
The old Condor that I used to skate up and down the driveway. It was a blue glass board. There it is. Grant's got it.
Is that the actual board?
Condor?
No, it's not. It is the same colour, same wheels, same everything. It's not the exact board. It could be. My board probably vanished somewhere along the way and has come back to me maybe. So that's when I very first started skating, maybe 6 or 7 years old.
The interesting follow-up with that is just yesterday when I told Dad about all this stuff, Dad's gone, he happened to be driving past a factory in Brunswick or somewhere, and this guy was selling boards. Apparently that was from New Zealand or something, and he was putting the wheels and everything together here, and he just pulled it out of some factory and got that for you. So it was just that little shred of history that he just happened to find in a factory, because he wouldn't have paid full price for nothing.
No, he doesn't pay full price. So I used to put a witch's hat down the end, which again we probably nicked from somewhere, and I'd skate up, go back down the other end, skate up, go back down, and initially I was on my knees and just skating on my knees and learning like that, which I don't think kids do these days, so they miss out on a bit of stuff there, a bit of skin off their knuckles and stuff. But then there was a bit of a lull where BMX and stuff came in, and then it started around about, for me, it properly started in like year 7. I think my cousin gave us his old board when we were down at Phillip Island.
Richie was the next step. We saw him. He was a surfer, so he was like just mad carved, tic-tacking around. We were like, oh yeah, that's cool.
Bare feet?
Sometimes with shoes. You never know, he mixed it up.
KT26.
The tail was on a big angle because he used to just like skid the tail.
Yeah, just skid one side of the tail, yeah.
And then, and we painted that and put a big Ford sticker on it. Like, we had no idea.
I remember that. That was awesome.
And then we got our first boards maybe that Christmas. And in fact, I've got my first board over there as well that I bring along. That is actually
I
my
don't know if I even got one then.
board.
I got an AP Claw at some stage. I thought that was at a different time.
No, I think it might have been a similar time.
Yeah.
And we skated that for a while. And that one's... Then I got my first proper board probably in year 8.
What was
it would have
that?
been a Gons.
A Gons.
Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
a
then
Vision Gons.
Always
the Vision
had the
Gons, and I did the grip tape on the top. If anyone knows the Vision Gons, it's the top's
shape.
got the graphic similar to the bottom, so there's a lot going on. But I cut it out and do every bit of the grip tape to cover every bit of the paint. And I'd just go like that with my thumb to put it down, and my thumb was red raw.
Coming out, he was bleeding. Like literally.
But I had the
there.
best grip tape ever.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. I actually had 4 of those, I think. They were the
All
only...
Gonzes.
Yeah, and then I didn't have to pay for boards after that, but the ones I bought were Gonzes.
But then I think the
about
real
you?
start for me was...
Did you just kind of follow in his footsteps?
Kind of,
or?
yeah. I was trying to remember it. It actually... it was actually... I think it was like summer holidays or something. I would have been like year 7, so maybe 12 or something like that. And Dean was going to his friend's house over in St Albans, and a bunch of them skated. So I went over there, and I think I was like BMX freestyle dude at the time sort of thing. I didn't have a skateboard or anything. But we went there and we sat down and watched Animal Chin. And I was just watching that, and I was just going, holy shit, this stuff's awesome. And I think that was like the catalyst for me properly skating. Like before that, I'd tic-tac around and whatever. But Dean was already sort of into it with his friends, and there was like, Paul Ablett and these guys that actually, were the scene in East Keilor kind of thing. And seeing that, I was just like, hell yeah, I got to get into that. So after that, I got my first board. I just remember was actually that Phillips. My first real board I got was a second-hand Jeff Phillips I bought off Blair. Sorry, what's Blair's last name?
Which
Hodgkinson.
are we talking the breaking out, or are we talking the tie-dye?
Tie-dye.
Tie-dye.
Yeah. So Blair, he sadly passed a handful of years ago. He became, one of the key skateboarder in Melbourne in his own right.
He was an enigma.
And we sort of barely knew him at the time. Like I got that deck off him, and we didn't see him. He lived in Melton. We knew him just from a guy who lived around the block. So I got this board, and then years later.
That's right. He was connected to Grant.
Yeah. So and then years later, he sort of turned up on the scene and was a really good skater in his own right, and part of Melbourne skateboarding
Was he
himself.
part of that Melton crew that used to hang out in the Ripper van?
Oh, man, I don't know, because we weren't really in contact with him through those times.
He was mates with Don Tarr, Brendan Lee.
Did they get around that
Jerks.
HT panel van with the Ripper on the bonnet?
Don't know.
No?
Don't know
That's another
about that.
story for another time, people.
Yeah.
Don't know.
I remember
so-
my first getting into skating properly was, I think it was like the end of year 7 to year 8, kind of that school holidays. And some of the guys were like, oh, we're going to go in the city and skate. So I remember taking my board in, and we went into the city square, and I couldn't ollie up a curb or ollie over a 2x4 or anything. I was like, just really raw. And we went to the arts centre and tried to skate the waves. Got a couple of shots in, and then the security came, and we ran, and we're hiding up the back corner, and I went home that night, and I was just, adrenaline was running through my body like crazy. I'm like, this is the best thing ever, skateboarding forever. I just couldn't believe how good it was. And then I just tried to learn ollies. That was like, I've got to learn ollies, and then I became quite good at them. And
Still practices them every night,
He's
doesn't
still
he?
practicing, seriously.
and then and that was with those friends from school. Dave Ablett and Shane Casey were the main instigators of that. Luke Pollock and a few other guys, and we went and just skated all the time and just skated around the back streets and all that sort of stuff. And
Was it A to B kind of skating, like we're going somewhere, we're going to skate, or was it specifically kind of street skating was on the scene then?
it was definitely street skating. And I remember by the time that Animal Chin came out, we went to there was a skate trade show. It was actually like an outdoor activities trade show or something, and skateboarding was a part of it. And Shane George, who was here the other day, and him and Sack and all those guys were skating and doing a demo kind of thing. I don't know if it was a demo or more they were just skating. And they'd butted this jump ramp up to the wall and they were doing wall rides. It was a rendered wall and they were just shredding this render off the wall. And I'm like, yeah, these guys are fucking killing it, yeah. And it was at the World Trade Center in the city. And then they did the launch of Animal Chin was on there. We sat down and watched it. And it was like straight away we purchased it and took it home and watched it. And that's where he came along and saw that Animal Chin. But it was so influential, that movie. And because it is about the journey, and you kind of you got encapsulated into that, and we were just on that journey. And
It's funny how simple it was back then, because you could, at that time, they could make a movie about, Animal Chin is fun, the search of fun. If you did that these days, no one would watch it. No one, the whole concept, everyone's going, that's a wank.
Cheesy.
Yeah, it's too cheesy, but it was awesome back then.
Even those guys say it was a bit cheesy, but if they realised just how big of an influence that had, and how big of a opening that it gave to people to go, oh, that's a cool thing to do, or that's a fun way to go about it, or whatever.
And it is true for skateboarding. You're just out there having fun, and still to this day, of all the things I've done in my life, every sport or whatever, racing motorbikes and everything, you get back to skateboarding and it just doesn't matter. You're instantly happy. Everyone's positive. Everyone's cheering, and it's that whole thing. It's a really simple concept, but it works. It's worked for us for 35 years. So
if we look into what was going on at the time, who were the people that were kind of inspiring you? You would have had local people, but what were you who was your heroes?
There were people like Sack and Shane George and those sort of guys who were, and Borgie and those sort of guys.
Did you see them around a lot, or?
Yeah, I did. I was always, going into town and stuff and skating around and into Paran and that sort of stuff. So you'd see those guys and you would see them skating and you would be like, wow, that's amazing. Johnny McGrath was just amazing as well. He's a shredder. There were some guys that were just so fluent and stylish, and you're just like, oh, I want to do that. And then the guys doing tricks, like, oh, I want to do that. And you kind of get your own thing, and you end up blending all of that together, and you get a bit of their style and a bit of their tricks, and you kind of end up your own thing. I remember going to Melton a few times. There was a few occasions where I went there. You would have come too. Mum would drive us out there.
Passed it one day and we just looked over and saw this concrete there with all the banks. Oh, what's that? Hey, can we go there?
Yeah.
And I think we didn't have our boards or anything, and it was we had to go home. And we come back another day and skated there, and it was just such a
Mum would sit out the front for 2 hours while we went inside.
I remember looking at it and just wow, this is amazing. And we could barely skate. But
no, that's right. We would wait at the bottom, and then the guys would be like, oh, you can have a go. And then you'd have a go every half an hour or whatever. And even I remember in that first year of skating going on the train out to Sindel, there was some guys out there just near Glen Waverley, Mount Waverley. And some guys out there had this ramp in their backyard, and we went in, and I don't know who found the guys or whatever, but they let us in, and we were there and watching them, and they were skating. And right from, dropping in and all that sort of stuff, and we're like, whoa. And then we sort of got it every now and then. They'd let us have a go. We'd get on the bottom and have a few pumps and get to the first joint of the ply or whatever, really lame. We went all the way out there, did that for a whole day, and then went home and thought it was the best thing ever.
Fucking ace.
Yeah. And people like the guys from Hardcore, or at the time Hardcore, now Globe, the Hills and all those sort of guys, and it was probably Tony Hallam was probably in that mix somewhere as well, back in the day with Veriflex and things like that.
I remember Garrett Felt, I saw a picture of him the other day. Garrett, he had just mad pop, and he skated for surf dive, I think. Yeah. He was one of the first guys doing sort of kick flips and stuff. So there weren't too many around doing kick
He was
flips.
American, so we were like, oh, an American guy, but he lived here.
American-Australian sort of thing. And so he kind of stood out. And then there was all Chocky Rich and everyone.
Garrett came in a bit later though, that was already...
Yeah, that was a bit later. Yeah, you're right. Also, actually, one of my first experiences with Sack, I was sort of talking about that before. Paran Bowl, and actually Shane's interview reminded me of it. Paran Bowl used to have just like gravel and like stones all around it. It was just like a dish, and I remember skating there. It was like I'd barely been skating that long. I think it was one of my first times there. Skating across the bowl, hit a stone, chalky, went down. I was like, stones, bowl. And I just remember like looking up, and there's Sack with a broom, and he goes, well, you better fucking clean it then. And just threw the broom down. I'm like, okay. Cleaned it up and skated, and it was all good again. It was great. But yeah, I'd forgotten all about that memory until I heard Shane.
I think Shane's story the other day about how he described that people would be skating there and then all of a sudden they would turn up. Mm-hmm. And then, because I can remember being a Grom kind of skating there and trying shit all day, and and then they would turn up, and then you're right, people would just clear the place out and you'd just watch it, for a bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
When did you get serious, boys?
Well, during that year of skating, friend Dave Ablett would, he had a paper round, and in the morning he'd go around and he'd deliver like 5 papers to the people that he knew would give reports back. And then the rest of the time he just would ride his bike around and look at new building sites. And then in the afternoon he'd go, right, this building, let's go. So that night we'd go down with steel wood, and we built a ramp in his backyard. Mm-hmm. And Mum was actually complicit in our stealing the wood. And
Really?
She only realised it a few months later. We would, at one of the schools was getting this new big extra thing built on it, and we went out and stole some wood, and then the security came. We just rode the wood down this hill, left it at the bottom and ran. And the next day we're like, oh, Mum, can you help us go and collect this wood? And she's like, oh, the boys have found some wood next to this drain, yeah. And so we built.
And they're recycling, isn't that great?
Yes. And he was recycling all the newspapers as well, the whole under the ramp. So we had this massive ramp built. It was a really good ramp. The transitions and everything were awesome.
Not at your house, at someone else's house?
No, it was at Dave Ablett's house, And it was such a fantastic place to go and skate.
It was actually pretty much like a perfect ramp. It was like unheard of, in that day,
Dimensions?
like a 6 foot high, 16 foot wide, like completely like proper size ramp. Like when people did backyard ramps back in those days, it was like, stack a pallet next to each other to make a platform, and like it was a 4 foot high, and just this thing was proper.
Yeah.
It was, and
Dave was really like he was a way beyond anyone else in his brain space.
Yeah,
and he designed it, we built it. And then we finally did, like after a few versions of it, we finally paid for some wood to put a nice layer of ply on it.
Yeah, top layer went down.
But aside from that, it was all stolen stuff. And then we ended up with a bunch of ramps in
You know that you're the only guys in history of skateboarding that ever did that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sure. And my mum,
And your mum, of course.
She stole, she was
her idea, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Don't forget the setup in our driveway
We
as
had an
well.
awesome
Like
setup.
we actually, our driveway, we had a quarter pipe up against the garage, sort of 5 foot high, roughly quarter pipe. Down the end, we had our big jump ramp, like waist high, proper jump ramp, which got used in every demo and competition for years
It was
after
solid.
that.
It was so good. It was perfect. And it never busted, never got holes in it.
We had
That was the
the
best
board
ramp.
slide, the slide rail thing as well. We sort of had a thing like 8 foot long or so that started at sort of 1 foot, went up to 2 foot on a bit of an angle. Like we had our own little street
with
course.
coping on it and stuff.
Angled coping on it. And that sort of just pushed us. Like we'd just be skating every day and get around wherever you
Start at 10 in the morning and just jump there all day until 6 at night.
How are your knees now?
So
I'm actually surprised. Like
not
mine
that
are a
bad.
bit creaky, but he's had a couple of arthroscopes, so I've
have
avoided it.
But I never broke a board.
I've snapped a
You
lot.
did.
Yeah.
You're a bit larger. But I never.
Why are we wearing 2 t-shirts?
And then our quarter pipe got busted when Mum tried to drive the car up it. She was
Well,
like,
we egged her on. We egged her on. We're like, Mum, you can
Drive the car, you can
up
do it.
You can drive up the quarter
What
pipe.
car was this? Was this just a little coupe?
A
Was it?
little Mazda 323.
How did I know that?
And we were just, I don't know. Slide. But yeah, we were just like, do it.
Mum's a
And then like
skate
as soon as she hit the bottom, something underneath the cars went straight through the ramp. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. We were like, yeah.
You have to go get some more recycled wood.
Yeah.
And when we got
And you can
that
take
wood,
us, Mum.
when we'd get the wood, we didn't even put rope on it, and we'd just hold on
Yeah.
and just
And you had
drive
to
like
stay
on the roof.
You got like near 60 and it
driving
started
through-
lifting up and you're like, no, it's lifting, slow down.
just driving through East Keeler with this stolen wood on the roof, just holding it. 6 kids
And it probably
hanging
wasn't-
off it.
Probably wasn't an unusual sight in East Keeler.
No, everyone knew. Yeah.
So you mentioned before comps. When did you start getting into comps? When did you start to get...
Early,
good.
really early.
Yeah.
Like,
What year are we talking?
because again, our parents were great in terms of supporting us and taking us to comps and things like that. So I remember going to one of the comps at Edinburgh Gardens, which is where the Fitzy Bowl is now.
We used to run those snake sessions there.
And-
Snake Pit used to run
Yeah,
them
so
as well.
Snake Pit had these comps there, and we went there and, just skating around doing our thing and watching people again, like Shane Georges and stuff, doing their thing.
What did they have there then?
Just a couple of quarter pipes,
Yeah,
like
okay.
a sort of,
Little jump
you wouldn't
ramp
call
and
it a fun box, but like a bit of a bank up to a flat and down again. And
Yep.
it wasn't that much sort of stuff going on. I remember going out to Altona and having a comp out there, and that's where I met people from surf, dive and ski, like Chocky Rich and stuff like that. And then they're like, oh, come in the shop next time. And so then you go into the city and you go and visit the shop, and then you go to Melbourne Surf Shop and
Downstairs?
downstairs on the corner of Burke and Swanson when it was there.
I think I remember probably about 87 was when we started pushing a bit harder. I remember the Melbourne Surf Shop demos, like the City Square demos. And I remember one day sort of doing one of the demos there, and I just learnt like sort of every trick you could on a jump ramp kind of thing, and went there and started. We started pushing it a lot harder at that time. I reckon it was about 87, 88.
I think there's a photo of that actual demo
I think there might be a
That
photo.
where
Yeah, there was one of those.
someone was taking photos just out random.
That turned up like, a couple of years ago, someone on Facebook that was linked with Melbourne Surf Shop had taken this photo and popped up. It was actually brought back a flood of memories.
It was on Shane's site, wasn't it? The How We Rolled.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it would have been, shared on that. But it was, with the comps, it wasn't like, there was quite a while where we just did comps for the fun of it. And I loved comps because you'd go to a comp and meet, everyone would come to the comp and you would meet people from all over and you'd make new friends and stuff. And I remember making friends like Andy Young, and he's such a ripping dude. And he was like, oh yeah, come out my side of town and skate with me one day. And so then I go out to that side of town, out to Doncaster Way. And he's like, oh, stay at my house. And, and his mum's feeding you and then you stay over. And even things where like, I remember seeing some guys from New South Wales were here and they turned in this thing and followed the tram tracks, which turned into a no road sort of thing. And we happened to come across them when they were stuck on these tram tracks and they're getting their boards out of the boot to try to work out how to get out of this area. And we see their boards and pull over and go, hey man, what's going on? Oh yeah, we made a wrong turn. Like, oh, where are you from? And they're from Sydney. Oh yeah, okay. Oh, actually from Nowra. And I thought, oh, so where are you staying? Well, we don't know. Dude, come and stay at our house. So the next morning, mum wakes up and there's 6 dudes on the lounge room floor sleeping there, and things like comps and stuff like that bring people together like that, and it just opened up so many opportunities. And then, in terms of doing good in comps, was never something I'd never aspired to do good in comps. It was just that you would go and have fun, and then that happened to be that you were having fun and it was good skating, and then people liked it or whatever, and you would go, right. So
Would you be exposed to more stuff there? Like you'd see more tricks and you'd be like, shit, I want to try that. Or
absolutely. You would totally be
that. I
influenced.
didn't know how to do that.
Yeah, you'd get influenced by the other guys around you and be like, that sort of success breeds success kind of thing. You would see someone else doing stuff, you'd do stuff, and you'd keep, and then they'd probably see us doing, that's what skating is. You're just sharing tricks and ideas, and you might see a trick over there and you do it on that obstacle over there, and all of a sudden that opens a new avenue. And
with comps, you kind of go some kahunas sometimes too, don't you? Like you push yourself a little bit more.
I think I've sometimes in comps, like I've had times where you sort of, it's almost like you take your brain out and you just skate and you sort of push a little bit harder, and sometimes you just do a trick and don't even think about it kind of thing. Like you can do that in a normal session as well, but sometimes you get pumped up, like you'll get onto a good run and you'll sort of do one trick and you go, yeah, okay, I'm going to push for that. I'll try that harder trick on the next obstacle, and it sort of progresses from there. But and at comps you just sort of, it's like a good session. Like even now, like if you go to a session and a few dudes start sort of stepping up, you start getting a bit more amped up, you push a little bit harder and a little bit harder, and more stuff comes out of it.
Was there any rivalry?
I'm not sure it was
there
the
any
comp
rivalry
itself.
any times, like with kind of
No, not until
groups,
later on.
or...
Skating for ages in that period there, like that late 80s and stuff, it was actually really quite good. Everyone, it was friends, everyone was into it, sharing whatever. There was
Probably wasn't until the 90s where
the
people
90s,
started vibing
there
on
was
each
all,
other and just.
And there was some comps that turned into
dumb
real shit
stuff.
fights based on that, where someone was out having to run and someone else would just go out and slash them up and stuff.
Yeah,
and
stuff was
just
shit.
being dickheads for no reason, just to prove some point, But prior to that, like that late 80s and stuff was excellent. It was such a great thing. And it wasn't the comps that would pump me up, at least. It was more the fact there was heaps of crew and friends and stuff that you were skating with. It was more the session. And I found demos to be even better. I love demos because you would get there and there was no 1 minute time frame or whatever. You could just skate all day and just smash it out and just progress and progress and progress. And whereas a comp, you had to turn up and try and turn it on in a minute, and you sort of don't get the same like in a freedom as a demo. And
Demo's got the energy, but not the hassle.
Yeah.
Demos
And it
is
still
just
had all the
mates.
friends and stuff like
Just
that.
your mates pushing as hard as you can and having fun and getting, as much time as you want, trying to land that trick and go harder and harder. It was great.
And that was like City Square. We did some demos there and like hanging at Melbourne Surf Shop. I was then working at Melbourne Surf Shop at the time. And there were days where you'd be selling that many boards. It was crazy. It was a peak with Power Peralta and stuff going nuts.
87, 88.
And you just, all day we're just gripping boards and selling gripping boards. And we had some pretty cool setups in there where we do like the D-Lamb Doctor. So you'd eraldite people's tail when they get chips in it and stuff like that.
It's like Mr. Minute, but for skateboards.
Yep. And then there was... and from that, we were there and there was people like Wombat and stuff who used to come in, and he was a punk, had the full mohawk, and you're like, whoa, sick cunt.
I remember that dude.
Yeah, and then, but then you'd skate with them and they're just normal people, and that was the other part about it. It didn't matter what personality they come across with. When you all skated, That was the cool thing about it.
Yeah, it was punks, rappers, graph dudes, like it was, every part of society was in skating, but it didn't matter because, you were riding a skateboard.
And even the surf dive and ski in Melbourne Surf Shop, there was kind of like a shop rivalry.
There was.
But we actually all hung out together.
As soon as the shop closed, it was like everyone's out front.
Yeah,
like
right.
Chalky
big
Rich,
session.
Mark Burstall, we're all hanging out, skating
Fungus,
City Square
Mark
together,
Burstall,
and
the Dogman and all those dudes like
Dogman, and all that, and people like Manny, and so people like Manny and stuff. Then he was from Gladstone Park, so then I'd be chatting to him, and he'd come out my house, so we'd go out to Gladstone Park, and then I'm hanging out with the Big Dork and Travis. Sid and Travis.
Sid and Travis,
and Richie Lang was there probably a little bit later on. I think he sort of came. He was one of the guys there, but I didn't know so well at the time. And then, but skating most of the time, with those sort of guys, and we'd be out till the last train at night, and then or the last bus home, sort of thing, and then call mum and dad from the station. Oh yeah, we're at the station. They'd come and
We're out in the middle of
collect us.
fucking nowhere. Can you come get us?
Yeah. And that was the other support they gave us. They just let us go off and skate, do our thing, and then we'd call them up from the station and go, "Can you pick us up?" And it's 11:30 at night, and they're like, "Yeah," and they come down and pick us up. And so then there's just so many crew that you would skate with from that connection, and it didn't matter. We never, identified as a Melbourne Surf Shop guy or a surf dive and ski guy or a snake pit guy or whatever. You were all just skating together, and that was it. Skating was the thing that brought you together, and that's why skateboarding was never a sport, an activity, a game. It was none of that. It was a lifestyle, because it did develop everything that we lived, and it created friendships. It created national friendships. Interstate, you'd go somewhere interstate, and someone sees you with a board. Oh yeah, come over here, and it just opens up so many doors and opportunities. And then there's the whole industry side, which is another aspect again, which is more of a Pete sort of side of things, but it's I kind of got a little bit of touch into that with Gregor Rankin and even Lynn down at the Melbourne Surf Shop.
Yeah,
she was so supportive of everyone, and sort of there was a point where she was trying to help everyone out as much as she could, and then when
seems to be a bit of a theme with people that own skate shops.
Well,
don't you reckon?
Support,
they don't make any money, so
you've got to support what's happening around.
They've got to love it.
Like you can see the ones coming through and help them out where you can and stuff like that. So
you
got to
love it.
Try and collect good people rather than the extreme talent.
Then the coin.
Well, not so much, but like just keeping that theme of good people in the community. You would have seen that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, it was a bit sort of different with the Odgies because we hit everything first. No one was sponsored then, and we were able to get the best. And it was
Speaking of sponsorship, there's a rumour, isn't there?
Well, there is a rumour.
What is that rumour, Peter?
Well, I believe it might have been I always introduce Dean as the. This guy was the first street skater sponsored in Melbourne. Now, is it true?
I have no idea. I didn't keep a record of that. So, Look, I was sponsored. I was sponsored with through Melbourne Surf Shop, and there were already people sponsored before me there at Melbourne Surf Shop, and surf, dive, and ski.
But were
and all
they
that.
vert dogs?
But no, there were street skaters.
Okay.
They were all getting flow from the shops and stuff. But then when Gregor Rankin came and said, "Hey, we'd like you to come over to Snake Pit," and then at that point it was like it was a tough call because Lynn had supported me so well, and then Gregor's asking this, and I said to Lynn, "Look, I've got this opportunity, and it sounds pretty cool." And she was like, she gave me a blessing to go, and I was so stoked on that.
How cool is that, though?
Yeah,
You did it that way?
absolutely. She, because I didn't want to burn her, and she knew that and knew that I was doing it the right reason. And Gregor gave me a great deal. He was not just sponsoring me through the Snake Pit, was the conduit from the suppliers. Like in that case, the initial deal was with Santa Cruz. So I had Santa Cruz and Independent. Wow. So they had, approached them and said, "Oh, we want a street skater on board," and so then he picked me out and put me on the books from that way. So I don't know if I was the first, and I don't know the timeline of all that sort of stuff, but I know that my story was that's how I got into it.
I suppose the calibre of that team as well would have influenced you a little bit because it was some. Was it Jason Ellis, Gregor Rankin?
No, Jason I don't think was involved at that point. He was probably a little further down the track.
That was a little later, I think.
Yeah, there was Gary Valentine and Dom not with. I don't think he was with Snake Pit at all.
Dom was kind of already Powell almost at
he
that
was.
stage.
He was direct with Powell.
Yeah.
But again, vert skaters.
Dom probably would have been. He would have ended up on motion, I imagine.
Oh, that was
eventually
a fair way down the track.
Fair way down the track.
I
can't even remember who else was on the team with Snake Pit. It was more the way Gregor came and spoke to me about it, and the fact that it was connected to the manufacturer that I was pretty keen on.
Direct flow deal, that was pretty rare.
Yeah, and he gave me this big massive package of boards and shoes and shirts and whatever, so many things.
Sweet.
And it was around about my 18th birthday, actually. I didn't even have a party for my 18th birthday. I was just like...
Went over to Snake Pit and then
it must have been earlier. It might have been my 17th.
I was still with Melbourne Surf for a while.
No, it was my 17th because I didn't even go to school when I was turning 18.
Yeah.
I was already out of school by then.
Yeah, you were already there. So.
Yeah, and because I remember that I did at school we had it was called Australian Studies, was one of these topics, and it was a Friday afternoon, and the teacher said, "Okay, guys, Friday afternoon you've got to go and do a project on an industry in Australia." So I chose the skate industry. Yeah, so I went in and spent a lot of time with Gregor and asking him a bunch of questions about the industry and stuff, and I wrote my little report up. And but it was cool because for a month or whatever, I got to hang out in a skate shop on a Friday afternoon, and then the next thing after that was affluence in Australia, and so for the next month you got to go and do a project on affluence in Australia. So I'm like, yeah, sweet, I'll go skate at Paran. That's near South Yarra, near Toorak. Skated at Paran for a month. That was cool. So that's how you get good, kids. You don't go to school. You just go off and do projects, and then end up skateboarding. But Gregor was great in that he was, because there was those guys like Gregor and Gary Valentine and those guys were, and the hardcore crew, they weren't very much into street skating. They did have a big disconnect between vert and street, and they could see it coming and they knew they needed to be a part of it, but it wasn't in their blood. It wasn't something they wanted. It's like, so I probably did break a bit of a barrier in that regard, in that they were open to getting me a part of their team and stuff at that point. It was cool because of the support they gave, and the opportunities that bring. It was demos and comps and stuff like that, and a few things paid for, and packages and things like that. I never took advantage of it. Like I know a lot of kids take advantage of sponsorship deals where they'll get boards and then sell them off down the skate park or whatever. I only ever took a board when I needed it. And yes. I didn't even mention a name.
You all thought of the
We all
same.
thought it. Hey, Jason.
But that's how people had to get by sometimes, I suppose. But I was lucky enough I didn't have to do that, and I had, these guys supporting me, so I didn't want to take advantage of it. I wanted to just, use things as I needed them, and then just as I would in real life, that wears out, I'll get a new one. I don't need one just because it's next week or whatever.
So where were you, Grant, when all this was going on?
Well, at that stage, Dean jumped over to Snake Pit, and I was still riding for Melbourne Surf for a little while longer. I'm not sure of the time frame, really.
That's a bit... I don't remember where you were at then.
Yeah, I just was kind of floating with Melbourne Surf for a while longer. And then, say maybe it was a year or so, I don't know, because I wasn't that old by the time I started skating for the Snake Pit as well, because eventually...
So you joined up as well?
Yeah, and I don't even remember the exact conversation I had.
I didn't recommend him.
There's no chance.
I was pushing some other kid.
I heard the words weak pop was mentioned a lot and stuff, but
You don't want him.
Yeah. So I think it may have been like, roughly a year later or something like that. And when I went over to Snake Pit, I think they flowed me some, might have been Hay Street boards or something. Oh, no, there was, I was Vision Streetwear. I remember my Vision Streetwear, the high top shoes. The pants with the big Vision printed down the side.
Yeah. Oh, the black ones with the white writing.
Yeah. So I got that pack and I was just like, this is it, man. I've made it.
Did you have the matching jacket too?
No, I didn't get a jacket.
That you didn't get the jacket.
No, we didn't get the
because that would have been really shit.
Those jackets, man, they were hard to sell. Everything else sold.
Yeah. But yeah,
I think they shipped them up to Ballarat because we had them.
So then it was like, we sort of, not that we were ever apart because we were always skating together, but and then we were on the same sort of team again after that, and then I think by that stage the team started morphing into the more modern version of that team, which was Jason Ellis and Tuss and Ben. Because Tuss and Ben had already been riding for hardcore for quite a year. So the sort of history of Tuss and Ben and us being two different brothers and ending up on the same team and everything, we actually sort of grew up at the same school and everything as well.
Did you really?
Yeah.
But there was a period where they came.
We never really.
I was out of school by then, but they were at school.
I think you were, yeah.
Tuss was your age, I think.
Yeah, Tuss was the year below. He was with Troy Polly and all those guys. But I had met him, we'd been around each other, but we never really even skated together. He'd go off and skate vert at Northcote or wherever, and that's where the Hill Brothers saw him and they sponsored him, and we were kind of like, oh, why? It was sort of strange at the time. He wasn't he was skating, but they obviously would have seen how nuts those guys were and how hard they'd push each other. So, and anyway, the team sort of morphed into being Tuss and Ben on the vert side with Gary and Jason, me and Dean on the street side, and then it grew Troy O'Mahony and stuff came in after that later. So yeah, it was pretty cool being on the same sort of team with each other. We'd always be going and doing demos, and some good demos, some bad. Some would be.
Oh man.
It's like, hey, we'll pay you to sort of go and do this demo, and turn up at this. There's a festival on. One had a mini ramp in the middle of a paddock, which was all right.
Which mini ramp? The one that was.
Yeah, it wasn't very wide.
There was one that was 4 foot wide.
Yeah.
They got us to skate this 6 foot high, 4 foot wide mini ramp.
Yeah. There wasn't much you could do. I ended up doing jump ramp airs into the grass off the side of it. It was keeping us amused.
It's probably the safest.
I don't even remember where that was, to be honest. And then
that was in Hawthorne.
Yeah. And then the one after that was the Collingwood one, and there's this festival.
Town hall.
There was a rough, really rough asphalt basketball court, and that was it. We've turned up and we're like, okay, so we're here to do the demo sort of thing, and they're like, yeah, here you go. And there was luckily there was a kid, remember that the kid's oh yeah, rad, you guys are here. Yeah. And we went to his house and got he had a little jump ramp.
Right.
So we brought the jump ramp down and we were sort of skating that and everything, and so some of those were a bit of a disaster.
I remember the one we did for Hoyts, and
oh yeah,
they got us the same sort of thing. They got us to turn up, and they're like, okay, so we're at High Point. We're at High Point Shopping
High
Centre.
Point car
and they go, okay,
it.
do your demo. We're like, well, there's no ramps or anything, and they go, oh, you need ramps? We're like, fuck. So we're like, Mum, can you get some ramps down here?
Bring the jump
Mum's
ramp.
loading up the fucking little 323 with jump ramps and brings them down.
Just holding the top.
Our fat ass.
Mum had it down by Pat then. She knew how to hang
Oh,
on to
Mum and Dad.
Strong
Actually, no,
fingers, Mrs.
Don't go
Abbott.
over 50,
Actually,
hang on to it.
No, they
This
actually
is probably
got
the
a
point.
delivery
This
truck.
is probably the point. We've got to give a shout out to Mum and Dad. So, Mum and Dad, seriously, everything you guys did for us, they were from all the original days, even early Snake Pit comps and whatever, where our ramps were getting used, demos, the City Square demos with Melbourne Surf. Our jump ramp was the one. that magazine there that had our jump ramp in it. Like Mum and Dad were like shifting ramps around and using all our obstacles and everything all the time. Like the support from those guys was
They never even asked a question. We'd say, "Oh, we
Actually,
need this
even-
here," and it was there.
Did you guys ever think of buying them a trailer for a present at any
Dad's
No,
time?
I just would have thought,
Who was
no
thinking
more
of
shit to
Talk
carry.
about Dad's
Really?
trailer, man. Actually, the funny one that Mum remembered last night was when we were building the ramps, one of those Yodgies comps, the big bank ramp that we built,
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah,
one
yeah.
where the car got trashed. We were there slaving away all day and
Till
we're
3 in
building
the
all this
morning.
stuff. Yeah, and we're like, we had drills and saws and everything going. And the next door neighbours poked her head and was just like, "Will you shut up?" And we're like, "No, you shut up. What's wrong?" And she's gone, "It's freaking 1:30 in the morning." And we're like,
fair
"Holy
call.
crap." Like, we
Yeah.
didn't even notice. We're just there building ramps.
Yeah.
Mum and Dad are there helping us all.
And we
Dad-
didn't care.
Yeah,
we
we
were just
didn't
like, "We're
care.
finishing the ramp."
Yeah,
man.
we've
I
got
don't
it.
care.
There's a comp on tomorrow. We've got to have this
Do you
ramp
know what
built.
we're
Is she
going to
still
be
your
doing
neighbour
tomorrow?
now?
No,
right, thank
sadly
God.
she passed away. Actually, it was, Wellsie's mum, so I don't know if Wellsie's watching, but, you know, props to your mum and props to you, Wellesie. So,
Yeah.
but that was, building ramps and stuff. Dad was always helping and supporting and moving the ramps. Like, we were trying to figure out, we don't even know how we got that ramp down there because it was like massive bank, like a, 6 foot high, 8 foot wide bank surface.
No, it was,
plus
it was
platform.
bolted together when we got it there. So
Yeah,
I designed it so you could actually take it apart.
Yeah. So,
It wasn't quite Dave Ablett design, but it was. The other thing with some of those demos, and they literally, it was in that era, a lot of them were in that era where skateboarding needed to be included somewhere,
Yeah.
but they didn't know what skating was. And so they just
understand.
so they'd call up Snake Pit because it's a big skate shop, or Melbourne Surf, "Oh yeah, can you do this?" And then they just would expect that skateboarding had a ramp with it. Like,
yeah, it was like you had a travelling circus
Yeah,
where you
right.
just pop up a ramp.
yeah.
Oh, we're going to see some radical skating from these young kids. It's
Yeah,
going to be
sure.
great. And you'd turn up to a basketball court with nothing there. And
Yeah. One of the big things though was it wasn't necessarily demos that influenced people. Demos kind of put you in front of people that were walking past or whatever. But then there were places we'd go to a skate park and you'd skate, you'd turn up and do your tricks, whatever, have fun, and then you might hand out a sticker or two to some of the local kids and things like that. And
Who would have tripped?
what they did, and I didn't at the time.
Yeah.
You just do it, right? And then literally 10, 15 years later, you're somewhere and some dude comes up, "Oh, is it Dean, yeah?" And I go, yeah. And he goes, "Oh, I'm Tom from blah, blah, blah. You came to our park one day and you skated, it was awesome, and you gave me a sticker," and he remembers it 15 years later, and it was an influence on his life, and you're like, wow, that's pretty cool, at the time, you're just doing stuff, you're just having fun.
Yeah.
And it was the simplest little thing you could do, but to them, it was the biggest thing in their life.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I
wow.
know, isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
I know.
And it's such an easy thing that life should be like. That's what skateboarding is so good. It's just you can influence people without even any need, deliberate act to do it.
Yeah.
You just,
no effort. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just,
it's
you're
just-
out there having fun.
Spreading the love,
yeah.
Now, you guys were talking about demos before, shit demos in paddocks. Best demo?
It's a tough question.
Thanks.
Um,
That's what they pay me all the big
Because we
dollars
did
for.
a lot.
Said you're going to slip a hard one in. I don't think
Did
it's
a lot
gonna
of
be that hard.
demos, so
Yeah,
it's a
that
hard
is
one.
Well, you can only pick your best, Dean. That's what I've asked.
Yeah. Well, I did end up getting known as a demo king.
Demo King.
Yeah. So
Which leads us on to another conversation.
yeah,
clothing.
that's a whole other
Actually,
conversation.
before
But
he starts talking trash on that, I reckon one of the original City Square demos with Melbourne Surf,
Yep.
which is like I said before, when I started actually really skating better, like there was a sort of that step, and I remember just skating it, and there was a massive crowd, like even seeing the old photo that surfed.
there was
like,
a huge crowd. Yeah.
Probably that had to be, like, obviously I probably did better demos and better skating later years and this and that, but that one being such a moment that was like, okay, I was hitting it, there was a massive crowd there, and it was heaps of fun, because in those days it was just so simple. It wasn't even like, we weren't like really sponsored, or weren't like, hey, go and do this demo.
No
I don't
pressure,
even know
yeah.
how it, like, it was
No,
like,
that
hey,
one
there's a
just turned
demo
up-
on.
That one actually just turned
Yeah,
up.
it was
that
just like,
the ramp ended up there for some
yeah,
reason.
put
and
a
we
jump
skated
ramp in
and-
the city square, and they
Yeah.
roped off a section and just had massive crowds just
Yeah.
pulling a demo. And that was, to me, probably the best, because it was just so natural, and so much fun. But
because it was kind of impromptu, and it was, when you looked around and see how big the crowd was, and you were like, oh, this is cool. That was a good demo because of that. But you're right, we probably did other demos with better tricks and better obstacles or whatever. Yeah. And I remember one at Paran that was cool where I did some pretty cool tricks or whatever, and it was a pretty big demo. But it was at Paran, so it didn't have the same flavour as somewhere like the City Square where Joe Blow at lunch break is walking past going,
With his
"Fuck, look at those
briefcase
guys."
being blown
Yeah,
away.
I do remember, like, even the pit in City Square, remember that in the corner,
Yep.
that piss-smelling pit over in the
Yeah,
corner of
yeah.
it. And you just go
Yum.
there and just start skating. And
There's a
everyone would
picture
come
of,
out.
where's that?
That's the
That's
City
City
Square
Square.
demo.
That's City
Okay.
Square. Okay, is that the
Alright.
demo
That's-
you're talking about?
That's
Yeah.
after the demo, actually, I think.
But it is the same ramp and
Who's
the
that
same
guy in the
day.
red behind you?
Yeah, I
Photo
can't
for me.
understand why Grant got in the way of that great photo of me in the background.
Right,
And
okay.
Spotty's in the background.
Yep.
But I'll sort of leap to the story of the photographer of that, because it was a really cool little story. It happened last year. I work in the motorcycle industry now, and I was launching a new tyre, and I was asking people in the industry, who do I get for a photographer? Because I was running a press event, so we were all jumping on bikes, riding through the country, had to get photos and everything like that. This guy's name come up, and I was like, I remember that name seems familiar from somewhere. Jeff Crow. And I've rang him up and just said, hey, I remember your name from somewhere. Did you happen to be a photographer doing skate photography, probably 27, 30 years ago? And he's like, yeah, I did. I'm like, you did a photography session in City Square? And he's like, yeah. I go, dude, that was me. That magazine shot was me. And he's like, oh, really? And it happened, it was so funny. He just started laughing and freaking out. He's like, last week I was walking through the City Square telling a friend how I was sitting in the City Square on this day, skating, watching these skate guys, started taking photos, put them in the magazine and everything like that. And he was telling his friend how much of a good day it was for him. He was like, that was just the best. And to that day, it was funny because he started telling me that he used to on-sell that image to all these sort of different textbooks and things. One of my friends said it was in like an Ozstar TV guide, and I'm just like, bullshit. Why is my old skate image going to be, that was like probably 10 years later or something. I'm like, why is my skate image going to be in there? It was an old magazine photo sort of thing. And he's like, yeah, I used to sell that to everyone. Whenever a textbook needed like a radical air photo or something,
Radical air.
a radical, image.
That's not even
He's
high.
like-
What are you talking radical?
Oh,
What?
yeah.
That's, I'm
think it's
sure
a
that's
Can't
on
see
my
the
way
base
back
of the
down.
ramp, can
Do you
you?
think it's a mate? Do you reckon he made it? I don't know.
No, he did. He was.
Did he?
He did. He was radical. He was
But
radical.
yeah, so
radical.
I was into him like,
Which gets me onto radical. I'm going to ask
No, wait.
you.
Just
radical.
quickly on that radical. How early did you set up with the grab?
I was
Like
like
two
100
pushes and a
metres, I
grab.
was down.
Yeah, yeah.
Mong push,
Yeah.
and I was already grabbing the board. Like,
Before you hit the curve.
yeah,
Before he even took off, before he started pushing. So getting onto radical,
I would ollie.
this guy here
yeah.
hit his peak, which is a long time ago, I can tell.
Yeah.
What
Makeup's
was
done
his
justice
best
here.
trick?
His best trick. Oh, dude. Couldn't say, because you would have to like try and assess every place we ever went and everything we ever did. So much big stuff. There were reminding me of the
What
talk of that.
impressed you about your brother's
The
skating?
one, the one that I looked at and went, nah, I'm not doing that, was the 15 stair, the Block City. He was the first guy to ollie
No, I don't know. I was. I don't think I was.
You don't think you were?
No, I never thought I was. Blair, I think, is the first one.
Really? Okay.
Rumour has it that he did it in Doc Martens, but just the other day
On a borrowed board.
on a borrowed. I think it was a borrowed board, but I don't think it was Doc
No,
Martens
no,
from what I
Doc
hear.
Martens.
No,
That's what I heard.
Brendan Lee said it was not.
No, I reckon it was. I reckon.
Brendan Lee
was
reckons he's
there,
got it on video.
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
No, he's got the kickflip on video.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Well, maybe it was Blundstones or Rossi Burns.
I remember-
I thought it was flippers.
Oh,
I heard it was
big
flippers.
But I remember seeing that, like, because I'd pretty much anywhere we went, it was like, me and Dean would always be pushing to, bigger, harder. That was our whole philosophy on skating, was like, bigger, harder and everything. But when we got to those stairs, I saw him ollie off it, and true to Dean's usual style, like you can imagine a 15 set, which is already probably 10 foot high. And Dean, his usual style, ollieing about another 3 foot above that. Like the biggest ollie you could possibly do as a human above that, and then just sailing out off it and clearing it by a mile, and then just splat. Like just snapped his truck.
Oh, there we go.
Here's the
Yeah.
truck. I don't know if we
both
can get.
both the hanger and the
So
base plate.
The base plate is broken, and the hanger is broken and bent. These were
A little bit of you's probably
benches.
broken as well, I think.
Well,
No,
that was the
actually,
thing.
I survived
He
pretty well.
survived all right.
Yeah,
I was like sitting there and I'm like, I'll just watch
that's
him do
impressive.
it first and I'll sort of see how it goes. And I just remember seeing him sailing out there and just going, holy crap, that's a pretty big gap, and then just splat. And I think he only slammed because his truck snapped.
That's
and then he
right,
went
yeah.
back and did it after that.
Good
So
excuse.
But you know what though, That was the first, like I'd done plenty of big ollies and stuff and plenty of big stair sets. That was the first time that I ollied a stair set, and because there were so many stairs, I ollied and I'm trying to spot my landing, but all I could see was stairs. And it was like the first time that I was ever scared doing something like that. Most other stair sets and stuff was just I know where I'm going. This one I'm ollieing, I'm like, where's the landing?
The hang time on that thing was like 1.5 minutes too. It was like, seriously, I just remember that like crack, and he's just up and just sailing.
Did you get footage of it?
No, you know what? You know why?
I know, amazing.
We actually had the camera that day. Mike Carney had the camera, and we'd been down at Kingsway earlier, and I did the double set down there. There was a big double set, and I did a backside 180 over it and a fakie ollie off the other double set, the smaller one. And then we went to the city and did that one. And because he had the camera, he's like, let's go, we'll do this one. And while he was getting ready with the camera, I was just like, I'm going to check it out, I'm going to do it. And I said to myself, I've just got to do it. I can't roll up to it and stop and look and then I'll freak out. So I just went, right, I'm doing it. So I just did it and bang, did it. And then this happened, the break happened, and then I grabbed another board, went back, and basically the second one when I did, the camera still wasn't ready to go. I wasn't waiting for a camera. I was amped on it and I'm ready to do it. And yeah, so I did. Yeah, that was pretty crazy, but it was one of those things that I never really went back and tried it again.
No,
because it was.
That's one of those ones you do it once.
That was the biggest. Well, up to that point, that was the biggest thing in Melbourne.
By the sounds of it.
Yeah.
By far.
Yeah, but again, I find out later that Blair actually had done it before me.
And then some guy kickflipped.
He did a lot
later.
of things before.
Yeah, but afterwards, kickflipping later on, like that's got to happen because of progression. And we can talk about progression later because that's changed skateboarding the way people perceive it nowadays. But we're talking about our story.
Back in the old days, yeah.
So what about this cat? So he's just said an impressive thing about your skating. What about him?
Probably fast plants were his best. No, bean plants. Sorry, bean plants.
Bean plants.
He was actually some of Grant's.
He's pretty
I've
slick.
seen him do some pretty cool stuff. I remember, and it's on video. Pete Tazewski has the video of you doing that frontside 360 ollie over like a planter box down the gap at the South Bank?
Like South Bank,
yeah. That was pretty cool. His stalefish airs at Northcote, that was cool. In fact, is there a photo of the stalefish at Northcote?
Yeah, there was
That's a stalefish at Northcote.
Is there?
Yeah.
We'll get our production team onto that.
Get a production team.
It's
no,
quite
wait.
big. That's it, Lofty. There it is.
There it is, yeah.
It is Northcote, no graffiti.
That was awesome. And Dean's
Really
partner
nice.
Sarah actually took that photo. I remember
Yeah.
doing it. It was epic.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. And I nearly hit her on the way down. She was like standing right in the middle. You can see I'm going to land and aim straight for
Yeah.
her too.
Grant's biggest highlight trick, and one that he pulled out at every skate comp, including the one when he was 15 and went in the under 15s, he was 16 and went in the under 15s comp, was
Who never did that though? Everyone did that.
was a nose wheelie. He would nose wheelie. He could nose wheelie. He nose wheelie down the World Trade Center. If you know the World Trade Center car park, 9 stories.
That's right.
And
Thought it
each
was
one
higher
is
than
kind
that.
of
I'm going
half
to claim
set.
it's like 19. But,
Was it 9?
no, I don't know. It's
But
high
it's
enough.
half set. Like
The
it's
truth
basically
sits somewhere
18
between
gaps.
these two guys.
Like 18 ramps that you
Yeah,
go
yeah.
down. And so he'd nose wheelie down from the very top, down each of the ramps, mellowed it out like the speed and controlled the speed to the next one and next one. Like it was phenomenal to see that someone could
But I did
not
it like...
wear their rear tyres out that much.
What about the
But I'd
Augies
get
comp?
like halfway down, and I'd get halfway down and like touch my wheels, and I'm like, fuck! All the way back up to the top again. I
Yeah.
had to start fresh. And
Someone
I don't know
posted,
how many levels
someone
I did.
posted the other day that you used to spend half your comp time doing nose wheelies.
There was a Yogi's comp that he you know, you had his first run, he hit pretty much every obstacle, and you could see he was pretty content within himself. He got some good tricks on just about everything. So the next run, he just dropped in, and the whole run was a nose wheelie,
The whole way.
which he finished
Nose
with
wheelie for like a
all the
minute.
way through, and then finished with a G turn, like technically correct.
Yeah.
I quite like it. Have you seen Jaden
G-man.
Sheridan do nose wheelies?
Is that the
Yeah,
Facebook
nah,
dude
guy.
that...
You're from
Oh,
yeah, nah.
Jaden Sheridan
seen
does
a
some
few
awesome ones around St Kilda. It's pretty good.
Like as in
need
the whole
maybe-
of St Kilda? Because that's what he would do.
Not all of that Ackland Street, but but maybe we should get you to have a nose wheelie off.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I remember
Get
you
into it.
doing a nose wheelie at that school in Sunbury, and I was in the car park. You did nose wheelie down that little sort of manual pad thing in the car park, and I was manualing behind you, and then I was going faster, and I overtook you, and then that was actually cool. That was the best brotherly trick we did.
That's it.
Oh, the brothers that
Yeah, we're
nose
gonna-
wheelie to get the
hard
stay together.
later.
There you go. Okay, magic wand question. If you could skate with any pro from any era, who would it be?
Your answer has got to be Gons.
No, I love the Gons.
Oh,
man,
what?
But I've skated with him, so it's a null question. Like, I've got to pick someone that I wouldn't have been able to skate with.
Where'd you skate with Gons?
Numerous places in like Paran and stuff like that. Yeah, like
Back
with
in the day.
hardcore, they bring him out a few times. So there was a few occasions where we got to skate together. Skated with Ed Templeton when he came out with the New Deal tour, and that was really cool. We were out at Mornington. I can't remember what it was called. That place out there. I was going to
the
say the
Shed?
Shed. No, but that's what the Cranbourne place
Cranbourne
is.
became.
I thought it was the Shed as well, but that place at Mornington, and we skated there, and then they kicked everyone out, and then we kept skating. We had our own skate session, so that those Ed Templeton and that were there doing a demo, and then we just skated afterwards with them as well. And that was cool.
So who would it be?
You know what? Like, let's sort of slightly change the question a bit
Sure.
and say,
Can't do that.
no,
Difficult man, isn't
He's a
it?
because
prima donna.
let's
He's
say
a
if we
prima donna,
could
it's true.
skate, who would I like to skate with and skate like, kind of, like be able to have a bit of their skill, would be a Chris Miller.
Oh yeah.
Like Chris Miller is
choice.
just
He's so
so fluent.
Yeah,
He
he's
just
amazing.
like, it's like,
Tweak shit out.
oh, I love the
Oh.
indie bones. There's might be a photo of indie bone of me doing an indie bone, but not
Fast.
like, fast, fluent,
Fast, powerful.
just so good at everything.
And still doing it.
Still do it.
And
Still.
still
Yeah,
doing it.
he does it now, and he looks like it was back then,
Exactly.
and it's
Yeah.
just
He hasn't aged either.
no.
He kills
He's,
that
Smashing it.
combi.
yeah, he's amazing. Cab would be a good one.
Cab would be good.
That because he's cool.
Just cool.
Yeah.
All right, your turn.
I'm gonna go a modern time version of that. In that I like to skate like this guy, Raven Tershi.
Oh yeah.
My God, seeing him rip apart a bowl would be, and to have a quarter of that skill, ball control, and skate transitions like that. Because I've kind of, I guess, developed a little bit more in a transition guy, a little bit. Still hit a skate like a street park, but I've kind of ended up
You're into trannies now.
leaning towards trainees. I love trainees. So
It's such an easy joke to
your
do.
tastes differ over years. So
Would you like big trannies or
Yeah,
small trannies?
you need different things to entertain you to get you
like
going.
both. So look, my wife's happy with it. No, the sort of trainee skating and stuff is sort of where I'm coming at now a little bit.
You keep going with it.
So you guys are washed up old farts now, right?
Yeah.
So what about skating now makes it a good session?
Skating with you.
Good answer.
Hey.
That's a great answer. I love it.
No, nowadays, like it's actually been really good to see like the resurgence of skate sessions these days with all the different crews, Carbon Grind boys and Boss boys, and that's how I met you. There was something on Facebook about, hey, we're going to hit Taylor's Hill, so I come down there, met you guys, and just the sessions like the, what could you call it? They're just so natural and happy, like skating used to be when we were kids. Like, you guys would bring some music down, everyone's just cheering each other on. There's nothing but positivity the whole way through, and it's just fun.
And it's close to your house.
Especially down there. Yeah, and there's good trannies down there too. But just those kind of sessions, just, getting back to times, even skating with Dean, which is, like, we rarely skate together these days. It's pretty
Why not?
rare. Timing and stuff.
Three kids.
He
Two
He doesn't-
Two kids.
he doesn't like to skate at my local skate park.
Oh,
Where's
God.
yours?
It's the second best skate park in Victoria.
Where's that?
Kenny.
Kensington. I don't skate there very often myself.
Yeah.
We don't get to skate together very often. It's just a matter of timing. We just weekends for me. I'm often working on weekends and stuff, so it sort of doesn't match up sometimes. But it is always fun skating with him. The problem skating with him these days is that we do talk too much shit, and
Yeah, it gets in the way of skating.
Yeah.
Sometimes
and
it turns into a dumb trick session, which is always fun as well.
Yeah, that's true.
The only time I've skated with both of you was, I think, at Tony's 50th.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
that was
no,
pretty-
I wasn't skating because I had a vasectomy that weekend, remember?
You did have a vasectomy.
Yeah,
right?
so
so you can do
I
more
had
training.
to
That's true.
stand
You were
there
skating.
I
carefully.
skated and I skated poorly. It was funny.
He did.
Yeah,
I was
I had that
laughing at
little
that.
board. I had my little.
He did
little
like
board,
a frontside carve and ate it. It was hilarious.
Yeah,
Oh, they're so supportive
Yeah.
of each other.
They would
aren't
have been
they?
egging him on.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
That's the,
it is fun skating.
That's all right.
with
We
Grant.
were all laughing at you walking.
yeah.
So that's all right.
I can remember one demo, which was pretty sensational, that you guys actually weren't in, but it was maybe the time you guys met Matt Hensley.
Oh right, I remember.
Can you
I remember
tell that
going to
story?
that. We went to Newport. There was a demo at Newport, and Matt Hensley was there. I don't know if he was skating actually. He was there.
He was skating. I don't know. He was out with his band or
He was
something
here.
at that
He was
time.
here with his
Yeah,
band.
it was an Innis trip, I think.
and so he was there, and we were just skating around, just messing around a little bit. There wasn't a lot. There was quite a few people there, so there wasn't a lot of room to shred, clear the park like we might normally do. But Grant decided that it would be a good idea to offer Matt a bit of a tutorial in one of his own tricks. So take it away.
Did you know who he was?
Yeah, I knew it.
I just wasn't sure. Just
But no, why am I getting blamed for this?
I didn't-
Because
he
I just
started it.
basically
He started it. It's
turned
true.
into
Just, I was there.
it's turned into like this bad vibe thing. I basically Matt Hensley's there, and I didn't have my skateboard for whatever reason. So what better thing to do was say, "Hey Matt, can I borrow your board for a second?" And I did a Hensley flip, and I was like. And I never really used to do that trick. I was surprised as hell that I landed it, to be honest. I was just kind of like, oh, yeah, cool. And I was like, oh, can you do one for us? Because it's the Hensley
it's
flip.
his thing.
Matt
It's his
Hensley.
signature maneuver.
And he was just like, no, I can't.
Can't do that anymore.
I can't do it.
The bit
And-
the bit that probably offended him the most was when you landed it and went in your face.
yeah, that's the version of it.
Do you like that? Do you like that? Huh?
I heard that he said, it's a rad trick. Dean does them better.
He did, yeah.
Dean used to do really rad Hensley flip. Big
Yeah.
pop, cat, like
And we
flip
actually-
it high and catch it. And
Yeah, initially we called them the crab sticks because this skateboarder, Dave Crab, he came across and he did one, and we're like, oh fuck, oh wow, and then we did them, and then we find out later that they're actually Matt Hensley had originated the trick. So we made up the name crab sticks. We had no idea what we just called it crab sticks.
Did Dave
So-
Crab think you were hanging it on him?
He had no idea because he was already out of the country by then. He would
Oh, yeah.
came and went. So yeah.
So you guys were skating for a long time. When did you stop skating?
I haven't stopped skating.
Good answer.
He actually did
Excellent answer.
have a bit
I
of a
love that
period
answer.
I've been
where he
patchy.
did go
You
away
didn't
from.
stop skateboarding ever.
No, I've always skated. I mean, I've had times where I
I never
haven't.
see you at the park.
I know.
Did you like
Tell
that?
me about it.
Yeah.
It's pretty lame.
No.
He's skating.
I've had times where maybe for a couple of months I won't be able to get time to get a skate in, but I'll get back on the board, a couple of months later and be loving it again. And I watch skateboarding every day on the
Yeah.
internet, and I live it still every day. I go to bed every night still dreaming of tricks, and still the brain is still, when I walk down the street, my brain is still thinking about the ledge there and the gap there and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's never left me, and it's something that I imagine based on my age at the moment, and I'm more than halfway done in life, I reckon. So I'm going to find that it's going to be with me forever. And it isn't just the fact of skateboarding and the act of it. It's actually the lifestyle that it's bring, because so many of my friends that I have now are from then, and they're all from skateboarding. I don't really have any of the people that I went to school with that I'm friends with and stuff like that. I don't have any people that I played footy with when I was a kid. I don't have any of those sort of people as friends.
Yeah.
But skateboarders, and a good example of that was recently we bumped into Fungus, one of the guys that worked at Melbourne Surf Shop with
that
me,
was
and
so
was one of
cool
our
catching
great
up
friends
with you.
back then. And he was one of the few guys that I hadn't seen over all the years, maybe 20 years I hadn't seen him. And then we bumped into each other, and instantly we were straight back on it again. Like,
Not
the
a day had
friendship,
passed. It
yeah,
was
the
just-
friendship never ends, and there are people you bump into that you've met over the years, and you may not have hung out with them a lot, but that skateboarding connection, and instantly you're straight back at it, and you're just friends again, and you've got a connection that you can continue to talk about, whether they're still skating or not. It'll never. I've never stopped, and I don't think I'll ever be able to stop. It'll always be in me. It'll always be something I do. I just probably won't do it as often. I can't do it as often. My body doesn't let me do it as often. Takes me a whole session to warm up, and then by that stage,
You've got a 5-minute sweet spot,
and then I'm too
it's
tired
over.
to continue.
Yeah.
Like when I get warmed up is when my body says, "Oh, you've got
You've
no
got
energy."
40-minute, warm up, and then you have like a 20-minute, 30-minute chat about your taxes or something.
And
then
you cool down,
and
it's all
that's
over
it.
you.
You got to go. Yeah, your legs
No,
cramp.
it's definitely everything I live and stuff still. Yeah.
For me,
Did you stop at all, Grant?
I kind of did.
You wouldn't know it.
I kind of pulled out a little bit
He skates
between.
better now than he did back then.
Do you reckon?
Oh, he's got a bigger
Sometimes.
bag of tricks now.
Actually, no, a couple of years before
No.
kids. Before kids, I actually probably was almost skating better than I ever had. But back around that time,
We're going to blame the
because it
children.
was a
Parachutes.
yeah. But like, no, I went through like probably, say 17-ish. I started pulling away. Dean sort of kept quite heavily involved in the scene, the industry, and that was where a little bit of Shane's interview the other day and talking about the VSC and Dean being involved in the comps and the running behind the background and all that kind of thing. That's kind of the area that I kind of missed out of. At that stage, I kind of stepped away a little bit. I was riding motorbikes a little bit. I guess 18 or so, I started sort of not skating as much. I guess you'd say I went off the rails a little bit without going into too much detail.
Which really surprises me, because you're a fucking upright citizen.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely.
I just because like when I stand next to you, I feel dirty, right? So when I hear these things about you, I'm really kind of like,
Yeah. Look, I wouldn't say I went too far off the rails, but far enough to know that there was a few bottom stages there over a couple of years. I guess early 20s, 19, 20, 21, something like that. Sort of off the rails a little bit, and then slowly sort of got it back together. I was still kind of skating every now and then, just a bit, and then somehow, I don't know what the trigger was to get it back together. I guess I got a job and started working in the motorbike industry where I am today, and sort of went into a role. I've been at the place I'm at now for like 21 years. So I think it was kind of the start of that. I was working there and started kind of getting my act together a bit more and getting a little bit more solid.
adult responsibilities, kind of grown-up
but
shit.
still, I haven't got adult. I've got kids and a wife and everything, and I'm still never going to admit to having adult responsibilities. I manage a national business and stuff, but I'll still never admit to having responsibilities.
No.
But I guess I skated kind of the routine I fell into is I would ride dirt bikes and race dirt bikes through the winter. And then as the weather would get a bit better and daylight savings, I'd skate. And always like the first few skates back, I just automatically start thinking I should just be on it straight away. I would have some of the biggest slams. The first skates back, like if you turn back time and want to get some good footage, just watch me the first couple of skates back and you'd see me just bang.
Oh, yeah.
Just eat it, and they're like, right, I better calm it down for a while. But by the end of summer, I'd get everything back solid and lock down and start skating good, and then hang the board up for 6 months.
Do you think that the motorbike riding and the skating kind of work together for you in a way?
Yeah, it did. Oh well, and even skateboarding, it gave me a big advantage with motorbike riding, which is reflexes, balance, and just knowing how to work your body to angles. Like if you're on a skateboard, you're hitting a transition, or you need to push harder. Angle your body to counteract the G-force and everything. It was the same thing in a motorbike.
Yeah.
So I instantly once I figured out how to ride a bike faster, that really helped with all that balance. And even coming back to a skateboard, you're used to higher G-forces and more speed. So on the skateboard, you started pushing harder, and it made me sort of go a bit harder too. Yeah. So, and to this day, like I'm skating enough. Like we were just talking before, I haven't skated in the last 2 months. Like stuff just kind of gets in the way. Like I'll get a few good skates together and start feeling good, and then I'll be off again for 2 months. So I think I skate enough now just to be frustrated. That's kind of pretty much it.
That's very funny.
But yeah, I'm hanging.
That's actually one of the hardest things about skating now. Your brain has still got all these things in it, but your body is like, nah, man, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, and
Every
there's
now and then you go to a trick and you're like, you know exactly how it's supposed to go and how your body's supposed to work, and your body just stops and goes, nah.
I reckon that. I think
and
that. I think
as you get a few more skates in, that gap gets closer.
Yeah.
But there's that period where you've just got to get over that frustration of your brain is different to your body.
And I think as age goes along too, like your brain has this kind of memory, and when in periods where I didn't skate, which is 20 years, I would think about it at night. I would think about it to go to sleep. And I would feel it as I would go to sleep.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine doing tricks. I imagine hitting it.
It's total mental imagery. You don't just visualise it, you're feeling it too.
And then when you get back on a board and your body's like, I so want to do that. Absolutely going to do that. And then you try it and you go, oh, that reaction time is so not what I expected. Neither's the balance. And then you try and jump off the board. It's not there, so.
Yeah.
That's my excuse anyway.
I get that a bit, even if I've had a good skate, and I'm tired, I've had a long day and a good skate, and I'll go to sleep and I'll be like, just as I'm dozing off, I'll dream and do an ollie and sort of start twitching, and True's like, what the hell are you doing? Skating, just did a big frontside ollie.
It's a good way to get the doona back your side.
So, look, there's also a bit of a rivalry with you guys too, isn't there? I'm not sure if anyone's picked up on it yet.
No, look, to be honest, that rivalry
it's manifested pretty funnily on
it's
Facebook.
for social media. It's not for today. Today's
It's not
about
for today.
No,
Today's
today's about
what a pussy.
So
come on, man. You know that.
So, look, if anyone knows these two guys, so there's a bit of. Do you want to explain what it's all about for the people who aren't in on the in joke?
Well, it started at some stage. It's like who's mum's favourite kind of thing, and
How
then
did it
turned
start?
into-
Hefty started it.
Hefty reignited it, but back in the day, it was always like Mike Carney and everyone was just kind of
Mike Carney Mike Carney would do it to get us to do shit. He would live his skating dreams, but out of us.
Yeah.
And so to get us to do the stuff that he imagined, he would be like, he would tell me, Grant did it.
Yeah.
And so then I have to do it bigger.
And then
likewise, he probably tells you that Dean did it, so you
next
have
time
to do
we're
it bigger.
not, any time we weren't together, it was like, Dean did this. And you're okay, I'm going to do it. And like I said before, it was like pretty much anything except that big set of stairs. I would have just been like, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. And you'd kind of do
likewise,
it.
if Mike said Grant did it, then I'd know I could do it. There's no doubt. I never had a doubt. It would be like, if he could do it, I could do it better. And the thing that the thing that I only picked up on more recently was that there was a hip, right? And you could only hit it frontside, for example. And he's like, yeah, Grant did that frontside the other week. I'm like, fuck, I'm going to do it. And so I did it frontside, bang. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, he's goofy-footed. He can't do that frontside. But Mike had used that manipulation and got me to do it.
I love it.
But it has actually, now it's manifested into something pretty funny. Hefty did fire it up again. Hefty hadn't even met you. I don't even know how it started. And we were skating one day.
Online.
Something, I don't know, I did an ollie or something, and I've just kind of come back, and he's like, Dean would have done that with more pop. I was just like, I was like, that is really good. But
there's also the number one thing.
Oh yeah,
What's the number one thing?
Andrew Murray.
Andrew Murray, he's my biggest fan. Andrew Murray's my biggest fan.
Oh right.
Hang on.
He had posters of me on the wall. I did. I've seen the posters. You've posted them on
He's
Facebook.
deadly serious, isn't he?
Yeah. So yeah, well, who's got the skateboard cut out with number one?
Yeah, but that's only because he'd already given me the other one, and in a different shape with number one written on it.
So now,
in fact, yours hasn't got a hand drawn picture on it, has it?
You've mentioned your mum quite a lot, right?
And Dad, no, don't forget Dad.
Dad as well.
Mum was
Dad's a champ.
Yeah, but you never drag your dad into these niggling conversations.
No, because he's already on my side.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I tried very desperately to try and get the boy's mum to come in here to be part of the interview because they're such a part of their skating. Whether it be what she actually sounds like she did so much for you guys, but also just to sort of finally kind of answer some big questions which are on everyone's lips.
She did a lot, not just for us, but and our friends as well. She would drive carloads of dudes to places and hang out for an hour while we skated, and then drive them home, or pick people up from injured in Werribee to take them to a hospital or whatever.
Just hold your seat. It's funny you should say that because I couldn't get your mum here, right? But I did speak to her for an hour on the phone,
Really?
and I
Longer than I've spoken to her recently.
Yeah.
Hey, did you wish her a happy birthday? Was
no,
her birthday
seven-
yesterday?
no, I
birthday
didn't. I
yesterday.
didn't. I didn't. I spoke to her before her 70th
Ah,
birthday, and
okay.
she does not sound 70. She
that's-
sounds about 40. Your
She
mum.
didn't say anything about this. I'm
Yeah, I know she's in on it.
She acted like as if, oh, you're doing an interview, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. She
Wow.
set you guys up, but
That's
so
it.
did your
Thanks,
wife,
Mum.
Trudy.
Oh, really?
Yes. So the big questions that people want to know. So, well, first of all, your mum said that skateboarding was very much part of your lives, and the fact that all you did was talk about skateboarding non-stop.
Pretty much.
You guys
It was
have mentioned
24/7.
so many things. Yeah, sorry.
Like, school got in the way of skateboarding
Sure.
Life
That
got
was
in
the
way
only
of
thing.
skateboarding.
for you and your parachutes, but for me,
Parachutes.
school was the only thing. Yeah, the kids.
All right. Okay.
Like, I would wake up, want to skate in the morning before school, go to school, get out of school, skate.
Yeah.
Skate all night, like just in the local streets, whatever. It was 24/7.
Yeah.
So she's totally right on
She's totally right. And look, the thing that lines up is her answers and the things that you said in the interview. So she said it was not uncommon for her to wake up with at least probably, 10, 15 kids in the friggin' lounge room,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Who'd eaten everything in the
that.
house.
Julian Delvecchio and Brad and all those guys from Nowra, welcome back.
Yeah.
And Will Puz, who else? There's all sorts of crew.
Vecchio.
God, everyone had been through
What's that? Jesus, something broke.
So she said the house was always full of people.
Yep.
That you did ask her to drive you lots of different places in her little wee Mazda, which
Yep.
was a coupe, was it? Is it
A little
coupe?
hatchback.
No, the
It's a
initial,
hatchback,
the,
right, okay.
The very first one was the coupe. That's when we would have been at Melton. That would have been
Yeah,
the coupe.
yeah.
The 323 was the one that did the hole in the ramp.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was later
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
So she
We
said
upgraded.
there was often about 5 or 6 kids jammed into this tiny car.
Yep. And
Yeah.
occasionally we used the HQ, the lime green HQ.
Yeah.
That was.
And she
The
said,
beast.
in particular, she said she took you to Ballarat one day, and is this right?
Ballarat.
Yeah, Ballarat.
if mum said so, we.
Mum
will
said so.
agree.
She's a very upright lady. I'd listen to her. She said she dropped you off, and that you guys made her quickly go away because you were embarrassed, and you wanted her to go and hide.
That would have been Dean.
Would it?
I don't
Yeah.
think I never had an ego like that.
I'm dropping Dean on the bus.
Oh yeah.
You were an image guy. You were like.
Oh, okay.
I didn't need anything else.
When do
I
you
had the
think this was?
McSqueeb haircut. I was cool. It
Right.
didn't matter if Mum was next to me or not.
It did, because how did you find all the women that you found in your life?
With the McSqueeb haircut.
So Mum said that you made her drive all the way up there. She said that, and then you got out of the car, and then you said, "Quick, Mum, piss off! We don't want to see you here," because you didn't want to be seen in front of your friends. And then she went and watched this football game somewhere in the middle of Ballarat, and then she couldn't find you again because she didn't know
took
where you were going
forever
to be.
find us, yeah.
Yeah. So that sounds like a common trip that your mum would have gone on.
Yep.
Yep.
She did a lot of that stuff for us, and sat at the front of Melton Skate Park for a couple of hours while we
Think about
skated.
that.
and all
Well,
Like
you
driving
should've got
2
it on film.
hours. Driving 2 hours all the way
Yeah.
up there to just sit there and then come back. Like,
Yeah.
It's pretty good effort.
Yep.
She also mentioned the wood.
Yeah.
She also
yeah.
talked about you tricking her to go and get the wood.
There was no
for
trick. We just
no,
didn't.
she didn't know that wood was stolen.
But we didn't tell her it wasn't stolen.
Sounds like a trick, Gene.
Well, it was stolen previously.
It's like a trick. Sounds a little bit like a
But-
white lie.
The night before it was obtained, the next day she just helped.
Found it.
She just
Like,
helped to
it was clean.
relocate it.
Yeah.
No, it was obtained and then relocated. They're not stealing. That's
Wow.
a
There's a
different
difference.
word. Yeah.
At
Look
the-
up there. Can
She
you,
also
we've got
talked- she also
one of
talked-
the production
at
team.
the
Yeah.
time
Just
that it was
Google those
removed-
words and they'll find that obtained and relocated are not the
Yeah.
same.
It's
as
like-
Sounds like
it's
you're
like-
making quite a case
It's
here.
like money
no,
laundering.
no. Come on,
It's
Aaron.
like
What do
money
you got
laundering.
there, mate?
Once it had been
Yep,
moved
see,
from
look.
one property to the next, and it had sat there in a fresh place,
I think
then
No,
it
no,
was,
non-owner,
we found it. Yeah, it was not on anyone's property. It wasn't owned by anyone at that stage, and then we moved it
if
after
you
that.
listen to, because your mum, I spoke to her for a long period on the time, and she's so lovely. I've got to say, she's such a lovely
She's,
lady. She
yeah,
sounds ace. Like, she
amazing
sounds
woman.
really young and stuff, but she was just sounding, and she sounds so innocent. She goes, "And I can't
Oh,
believe the
big
boys
innocent.
take
Yeah,
me
yeah.
there."
Big innocent. Yeah.
Yeah, to steal the wood. And she said she only found out after all. She told us about you only wearing black for a long period of time.
Yeah, I don't even really remember that by choice.
No.
I think maybe that was part of that was like all the stuff I got given, all the Vision Streetwear stuff was all black. I remember I did have a black Vision hoodie, the black pants, black shoes. It I don't know, not like I was an emo or anything, but
And Dean had a baggy phase, and apparently he loved MC Hammer.
oh, dude, his baggy
I
phase.
might have made
Actually,
that last
I
bit.
mentioned-
Baggy phase was on point.
Yeah, I mentioned Julian Delvecchio before. I used to work at the Commonwealth Bank, and I was at the branch that was right near the Vic Market. So I'd go around the Vic Market and I'd buy like size 38 jeans, which are like
It's
way too big.
I didn't actually. I just want to say that,
at the time.
And then
that's actually 4 sizes smaller than what I wear.
at the time I would have been a 28. So then I'd take them back and I'd put them in the overnight bag to send them to Nowra branch, the Commonwealth Bank. And so I'd use the internal mail for the Commonwealth Bank. And then I'd call Julian. I go, Julian, mate, check this package out. And there was 2 pairs in there. One for him, one for me.
Yeah.
His mum would cut them and
She was a
resell 'em.
seamstress.
Yeah, seamstress, yeah. And then there was a return envelope in there. So then she would put it back in and take it to the bank, and they would send it back through the internal mail, not knowing that it's just a pair of jeans for me. And that was the most thieving I did from the bank.
And
before-
probably like the baggy phase was the 90s, and that was kind of where I kind of stepped out. I think part of it was...
Small
part of it
wheels, I'm out too.
Yeah.
Gone.
Oh, man,
Sorry.
that was the
I'm
thing.
out.
Part of it was like personal. I guess that was the time I was kind of like finding other things to do and silly things and bad choices. But
We can take taking drugs on here.
shh,
Okay.
my kids might end up seeing this.
Oh, yes, true.
Anyway, but
You know what
there was
goes
some
around
things
comes
taken.
around,
But
brother.
the thing is, like, I kind of got to that point. The 90s came along, and my whole thing about skating, and I think Dean's kind of was as well a bit, is we would push every trick harder and
Yep.
higher and harder, and you would, like, if you did a trick, you were going to do it until you got it as hard and high as you could. And then it came to, like, kick flips and tech, like scrapey worm burning pressure flips and small wheels, and that was like the complete opposite of everything that I felt in skateboarding was what I wanted to do. And I was kind of like, nah, I'll step out. But looking back at it, like, that grew. What skateboarding is today is just freakishly amazing. What the guys are doing, the size of the tricks and the tech in the trick that they're doing now, I guess would never have been born if it wasn't for those years of horrible
Flippy.
worm burning, flippy, landing so horribly. Like, everything about that era, the clothes, everything was just horrible.
I
But
remember seeing some footage of Frankie Hill doing this trick. He might have done he did like a 360 flip onto a handrail and then kick flipped off or some shit. And the board bounced like 3 times
before
he
he even
actually
landed
got
on it.
it.
It's like dunk, 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 and
Yeah.
feet landed on it, and it
you're
was like
it just looked shithouse, like nothing flowed, nothing looked natural, and their setup was, their feet were right back on the back end of the board or something, nothing looked like normal. Nothing looked natural. It was so forced,
horrible.
and it was reflective in skateboarding at that time. Nothing was natural. It was all forced. The fashion
clothing
was
was forced, the wheels were forced.
The
Like, who
attitude,
wants to
that's when
run
all that
wheels?
shitty
The attitude,
skate comp stuff was happening
Yeah.
as well, when guys were like trying to
Vibing
be
and-
fucking vibey on other guys and stuff. That was a shit era of skateboarding.
So we're
And,
looking like mid-90s?
Early
Yeah,
92,
93,
94.
yeah.
Yeah, early 90s.
Thanks Steve Rocco,
Yeah.
It was the Princess Bridge days.
the Prince
See-
Bridge,
See, I wasn't even
things like
around
that.
for that stuff. I was out. Like, there's a whole era and bit of Melbourne scene that I just missed, and a bunch of crew which I kind of caught back up with later and stuff, which was all great.
There are dudes that were skating rad back then, and they were doing
Yeah.
some cool stuff, but at the same time, the whole vibe of skating was not that great at the time. Like there was negativity in it,
Right.
and we spoke earlier about how positive skateboarding is and how that was such a great thing about skateboarding. And then that era, it was fairly negative, and then there was also those tricks that were just shitty, just scrapey, just like the sides of the board would get worn out more than the tail based on kick flips that just got and just touch the ground like as they're flipping, and that small wheels, that fat
You guys were
pants and
used to
stuff.
flying, and all of a sudden everything's happening just
Yeah.
under you. Everything
Yeah, right.
I
was
was
like
so
so
stoked
flat
when-
ground,
I
Well,
was
like
so
on an
stoked when the
ankle
late
high curve.
80s when
Yeah.
it started to, that stuff started to get big, like people started to go, oh, we can actually kickflip high and do big kickflips or do, all these tech tricks bigger. And then I was like, oh, skateboarding is so cool again now.
Yeah.
But there was that period where it was just fucking throw a fire on it, it was just not fun at all. Just burn it.
And I think the vibe is back now as well. Like, people are back to just having fun. Like, you see young guys today, and yeah, it's back to where it was. Like, it's so much better now. Just getting out and having a session and skating with young dudes, old dudes, it doesn't matter.
Quite mixed, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like when
And
we are around things.
As a sport, like I've sort of like raced motocross and done a whole bunch of other stuff, and it's the only sport I've ever come across where you're cheering on your competitor kind of
Yeah,
thing.
right.
Like if you look at it that way, if you're in comps and whatever, and someone does a trick and you're like, yeah, that's awesome, and you're pushing them to do harder. Like you don't go to a race or any other sport and start cheering
It's
to the
true.
other team. Like it's
Even like you see the van series, and you see dudes like that know each other very clearly, you know, that sort of pull something
Yeah.
fucking off, and they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
yeah.
I suppose
it's all about.
amazing when you know someone can do it, but they pull it out in competition when
Yeah.
the pressure's
Yeah, under
on
the
you.
pressure, you know
Yeah.
the pressure. Yeah.
And even nowadays, like even you go to a session like with some older guys, and like if a guy does a kick turn a little bit higher than he normally does,
Yeah, that's
everyone's
true.
like, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what level you're
It
at.
doesn't matter.
You can see someone has pushed their own limit, and you're stoked on that, and
Yeah.
and you share the stoke. And that era that was shitty, it was shitty, but I still skated, and I found it very difficult because I felt that because at that time I was still sponsored, and I was, you know, there was a bit of an expectation that I had to move with the times, I suppose.
Yeah, right.
But it wasn't me, and when I look back on it, I'm like, oh man, it sucked because of the shitty skating and stuff, the whole attitude
Yeah.
of stuff. But the extra pressure on me was shit as well. Like I'd turn up to a park, and I'd, you know, turn up and drop in or whatever, and instantly I'd feel eyes looking at me like he's
Yeah.
got to do that fucking new trick, you know, and I'd not have a fun session at all. And I'd try and do some of those tricks, and you know, but I just didn't enjoy
Forced.
it. Yeah, it was forced, and I just didn't enjoy any of it. So it was a bit of a dark time in that regard. In that it was what I loved was manipulated to a point that it wasn't actually fun, and I was doing it because I almost felt that I had to some degree. The best part of that era was skating with my friends, because with my friends it didn't matter. We skated, we did our thing, we did what we wanted to do, not what the expectation was. Yeah, and that was really fun. That was the part that I enjoyed about it. And the reason that skating is so good is because you've got dudes you can hang with that you can then associate with on the same level and have
I think
fun with.
in some ways, I think it's, for me, it was fun back then because I think it was kind of, you were really challenging yourself and you were doing lots of tricks and stuff, and it was all new, and I think it's more fun now just because it is more relaxed.
Yeah.
More relaxed, that it is more supportive, and you know, you're just excited because you've gotten away from the children and you're able to go for a skate, you know, let alone anything, or you've been skating 3 weeks in a row, you know.
There you go.
I think now too you've got that lack of expectation, so everyone's just doing it for fun, and there are so many levels of it now because there are skaters like me, skaters like Shane George in that era who were just before me, the guys that I sort of looked up to. So they moved forward. They're now pushing their limit still, and Sack just still ripping for whatever. How old was he? 50 odd.
92.
92. He's
92.
doing well. So those guys are still ripping, and then we're ripping in that next section still at our whatever our ripping is. Like that description of ripping is we're just doing
It's
our
so
thing.
varied.
I think
Yeah,
Al,
even-
And
Al,
then,
Al Miller in one of the previous interviews was talking about, you know, he was sponsored down at Speakeasy, you know, and then there was this next lot coming through, and he survived that wave, and he then was another wave, and there was another wave, and then he was talking about what you were kind of saying about, you know, I had to try and keep up with them. I had to sort of try and do that new trick sort of thing. So there was always waves of people coming through. You know?
yeah, and it's weird in that I didn't want to have that expectation on that I need to be better than this kid who's coming up or whatever. I just felt that expectation from sponsors.
Sure, yeah.
You know, I've got to provide them with something of value. Not that I wanted to keep being sponsored. It's just there was a connection that I felt obliged to some degree.
Yeah.
But when I took myself away from that, it was so much more fun. And I ended up hooking up with more sponsors, different sponsors in different ways. But those kids that came through, and there's nothing against those guys, I love what they did, and the fact that they did change skateboarding at that time, and the Harry Fungs and the
Pushing it.
Will Stiles and the...
I remember Will Stiles, like seeing him the other day and just chatting with him, and I remember him turning up at Param one day, and I don't even know how old he was, like 14 or something, just drunk, like blind drunk. And then, like, you know, and now I see him, you know, grown dad, you know, rad dad skating, and he's just such a cool, nice, down-to-earth dude. We sat there just talking for like an hour the other day. But that's, that's what skateboarding is. Like dudes that
He'll be sore today because he tried to do 40 tricks.
he did the 40-40.
Did he? 40? Is he 40 today?
No,
the
Friday.
other
Friday.
day, yeah. So I'm trying to bring myself to the 44, but I'm kind of, I haven't skated for 2 months.
I
so-
can't think of 44 tricks.
Yeah, I kind of had to list them.
Do you have to get off the ground?
Well, does it?
No, and the other thing about those kids was then there was some great friendships that still developed out of those as well.
Oh,
like
for
Ralph
sure.
Rotura.
Yeah.
Oh
Like-
yeah, that whole crew was awesome.
Yeah, like Ralph was so cool. Like he was a little bit different in that he was pushing that limit, but he still appreciated, I think, a little bit more about what had come before. And that's like me. I hopefully reflected that on the other guys, the older guys, that I respected what they'd established for me. And because what they did wouldn't have allowed me to do what I did.
Sure.
And what I did, hopefully, I assume, wouldn't have allowed the next crew to do what they did.
And you're
so
hearing
on.
this, like Shane's story, I think the other day really kind of told it quite well. You hear about people pushing it and doing this and taking it that way, and then it kind of allows other people to then move into that space and then do something new. And it evolves.
And because I look back on that and I remember seeing those guys skating and I'm like, I didn't think it at the time, as in, I didn't think, I'm better skater than those guys, but I can skate with those guys. I can be at that level with those guys. But then as it turned out, I ended up getting better than those guys. But I wouldn't have done that without what they'd already established. And that's like nowadays, you see kids who start skating now and their vision of skateboarding is so different to what ours was, because we had still photos in a magazine and you had to try to work out, how do you get to there, what's that, how do you get a board to flip and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, you didn't know what you
Now,
had until you went to
you've
like
got-
a comp or a demo or something like that, and you were kind of like,
But now they can see it right there and they
it's true.
and they see basically a skate video's got so many makes in it, basically they think everyone just makes,
The thing
and
that-
so they're not only are they looking at skating at such a high level, the trick combinations and the technicality of it, but they're looking at it at the consistency that these guys are able to do that stuff.
Yeah.
That's
What they
normal.
think.
Like that's their normal.
No.
well, that the epically lated, I was watching Andrew Reynolds or someone, and it was like he would skate this one set of stairs doing this one trick for days.
Yeah.
Like trying to do it for days, literally. He'd make it like once, get it on film, and then just go on a bender for like a week. And then
you've done
like
it.
go and then, spend another couple of days to do that one trick. So you look at a video and it's made up of probably like 6 months of him doing like one trick a week,
Yeah.
finally making it, and just going on a bender.
Just went on the Lamborghini tour with Wade
Yeah,
on
yeah,
them,
that looked awesome.
up to Queensland, and had their crew, and this is exactly what happens. Just watching those poor bastards throw themselves at things, time and time again until they got it. And I think we were quite lucky that they managed to nail stuff in short periods of time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there was some blood, there was some guts, there was some broken skateboards. There was a lot of swearing.
Because not only
You
did we
know?
not have videos to film ourselves, but also, like, if someone was to get a video camera out on a day and say, hey, we're going to film today, I would be able to do all of my tricks on that day. I wouldn't have to do one
Yeah,
trick
like-
now, another trick next week, and whatever like the kids do these days, and then put together their part. Like, you hear them talking about, I've been working on my skate part, and it's, a year.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Well,
Jesus, I could have
just
done my
don't
tricks
skate
in a
Bones
day.
guys was,
Yeah.
wasn't
I
the
might have
Bones
gone
guys-
2 days to go to a different spot, but I could have knocked everything out in a day. And not to say that I only had a limited bag of tricks, but at the time, I would have been able to do that.
You wouldn't consider that you had a trick that you had to spend a whole day to make it once. But on a flip side, like skateboarding does teach you that kind of stuff, like the persistence of doing it. Like even some of the stuff my wife looks at, someone like just bailing a trick and slamming, and you slam and you just get up and you try it again. And a lot of people look at it and just go, what the hell are you doing? Like even, like if I go skating today and I like take a big slam and I'll be lying on the ground literally laughing at myself, just going, that would have looked so fucking funny. But you just get up and you try it again. So it's taught you that thing in life. That you just don't give up.
Even-
like that didn't work, you angle yourself a bit different.
Yeah.
It's just, you try.
Even Jerry Seinfeld said something just along those lines about how amazing it is to see skateboarders do what they do, to work their craft, because they slam and slam. They fail more often than they succeed.
Yeah.
There's not many other industries or sports or whatever it is that you do that you fail more often than you succeed.
Yeah.
And that's the mental strength that you have in skateboarding, that skateboarding, you know, is so different.
But this is a really good little segue to a question I asked your mum. Yeah, I said, what?
She didn't take many slams. What do you?
No, she didn't take
Sure,
me
some
slam.
wood flew off
She
once.
was,
No.
no, she was seriously
Some
good.
wood.
She was seriously
Yeah,
good.
Actually, Mum's
So-
probably got more pop than both of us.
Probably. So I said to her, what did she think both you boys got out of skateboarding? And she thought very reflectively for a moment. She said she thinks you both got confidence and discipline. Yeah, which you've mentioned.
Yep.
They learned how to better themselves, learned to constantly challenge themselves,
That one for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and learn from others around them, you know, and that practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
She also said that they gained really good friendships.
The thing about practice makes perfect, though, just to clarify that, was that we never thought we were practicing. And I think that's
The thing
why,
about skateboarding.
Yeah, you're just skating.
You're not practicing.
Essentially, you're practicing because you're doing it so often. And, you know, I would go out and skate all night at the little curb at the petrol station up the road
Oh, yeah.
and off the 2 stairs at the front of the church or whatever. And that's just what I did. When I look back on it, shit, I was practicing
Yeah,
every night. You
in
know,
the
like,
gym.
It's such a, yeah. But if you were to tell a kid, go and practice this all night, they'd be like, fuck that, I'm not doing that, I'm going on PlayStation or whatever.
Yeah.
But when we were doing it, we were practicing without knowing we were practicing, and it's actually, practice does make perfect, but you don't need to know you're practicing, just enjoy it. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's right. I'm just, because it's interesting, you guys are saying it and your mum's saying the same thing, which is really cool because it means she kind of, you know, and your mum is
kinda knows who we
She
are.
knows who you are. She said there's been some casualties and some sad stories along the way, but that skateboarding had given you quality friends for life.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
what she said.
Absolutely. Quality friends for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
It's yeah.
Can you just, what was that on the
That is-
screen that I noticed?
You just, these are my questions. You go back. So some other questions I asked your mum. Hang on a sec. I said most parents have a
did not
favourite
say those
child.
words. She
I
did
said-
not say those
Let me
words.
read it. I said most parents have a favourite child. I said to Josie. I said, which one of the two is yours? I said to her, and she
won't
said,
answer
and I told her to pick one. Yeah, and she said, and this is very interesting. She said, and these are her exact words. She said, "Well, Dean was a very easy child." She said, right, and then she said,
Perfect
with a
child,
very
perfect.
awkward pause,
That word
very
easy.
awkward pause.
Just look that
she
word
said,
up. Easy means perfect, yeah?
She
Easy.
said
Yeah.
Grant was a little bit more challenging and very risk-taking.
Yeah,
she said.
risk taking would probably fit into it. Probably still does.
Yeah,
I could agree with that. He was a pain in the arse, though.
right.
To you.
Yeah, to me. To me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I guess I tested the limits a little bit more than Dean did. Like, because I sort of thought about it, because even listening to Shane's interview and talking about the different cultures within skateboarding, and, you know, you had the punk dudes and the hardcore, and, you know, and even the guys that we hung out with were, you know, graph kind of guys, and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And we were just kind of in the middle. We're just skating. Like, you know, we didn't kind of go either way. There were dudes that, you know, at the age of 14 were drunk and stoned and everything. And it wasn't until later, like, we had dudes like, just come and get stoned because they thought it'd be funny. Get one of us stoned or something. And it was like, you know, it was like a challenge for him.
I noticed a quote in one of your things here. It says, "The clean guys in a sea of diversity and hedonism."
Yeah. Well, I wrote that. It's a very lame statement to put it that way. That just, it was, yeah, like we were kind of just dudes skating, whereas
Yeah.
a lot of other people, it was a tool to, you know,
Self-destruction.
a click. Yeah, right. Yeah, it was a leading to self-destruction, but it was like, because there were so many socioeconomic groups and everything that were involved in it, like you didn't know who you were getting. Like even Shane was, you know, private school boy sort of thing and turned to different ways. And, you know, he went down the path of the punk guys and we kind of didn't sort of follow any of that stuff. We were just
It doesn't
skating,
attract
kind of.
laureate poets. It attracts black sheep.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure, I think.
So, and even in our neighbourhood, like East Keilor was a nice place to grow up, really. But looking back, there were a lot of fucking bogans there, and like, you know, some of those.
You should live in
skaters-
Ballarat.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But like, yeah, and we kind of like resisted. Dean was like, he would hardly ever get drunk until he was 18, and then
Well, this is what
give
your
him a
mum
beer
said.
and-
Your mum says
Hardly ever get drunk. I didn't
She
get
goes,
drunk
Never.
till after.
Your mum says. She said Dean had a lot of more common sense, and therefore she wasn't surprised that Dean turned out to be a bit of a mummy's boy.
Yes.
Where does it say that?
Look,
Really,
it says
Mum,
that
I
Dean
love
turned out
you.
to be a bit of a mummy's boy.
She wrote that?
Yeah.
She might have.
Let's just reflect on who still gets their underwear ironed by mum. And
Yeah. That crisp feel of underwear freshly ironed by mum is that's really where it's at.
Okay, so
No.
we've got to get to the biggest question, all right? And this is the question that everyone wants to know. Who has the biggest pop? All right.
there's a weight of evidence that proves the point. So I'm not going to say any more.
Right,
I'm
okay.
gonna-
What do you think? Your mum said.
Nah, look, I'm gonna. Mum's gonna. Yeah.
I tried to get
I
it.
can't trust mum anymore.
I actually visited her last night, pretending to go there for her birthday, but I really wanted to get this info out of her. And she was very, very reluctant to give up any information at all. So,
Nah, look.
That's because she gave it to me.
but when it
That's
comes
why.
to pop, I
Pop.
think she knows the answer. I don't think that she
If
needs.
we were going to go just pop, purely pop, I would say Dean's got like a millimetre more.
Right.
I'm gonna say that for
Okay.
the record. But
Based on a
there's-
millimetre though, but then you take that into consideration of my actual height and as a
Yeah,
he
he is
percentage.
a short
thinks he's
ass.
like
He's a short
percentage
ass.
wise.
Yeah.
Actually, I just
It's
saw
a
that the other day.
massive,
How short his
massive
legs
pop.
are. I've got to give him credit for that.
How did you possibly get?
He's got a disability.
He's got a disability.
I
Clearly.
He's got a disability.
So,
That's why everyone's like, it's Dean, it's all right. But
he's got to make up for it in some other way. So, who has the biggest pop? Now, Josie said she thinks that Dean probably has the biggest pop and the most consistent
Burn.
Ollie. Okay.
burn. Actually,
Okay.
no, I believe
And the
it
most
because
consistent as well.
no,
Most
I'm
consistent
getting a
Ollie.
bit flappy these days. It's pretty
Yeah,
sad.
you look like an eagle that's caught a snake and it's going, "Woo!" The snake is your board.
Hang
the
on a
eagle's you
minute.
going,
Hang on a minute. Just calm down for a second. And she said Dean should be, as he's always practicing 24 hours a day to try to beat his brother
No,
Grant.
that was him adding that in
Yes.
for sure.
No, that is gold.
And
It's true.
I said, well, this actually discredited you by a clear bias was shown towards a golden child. So it's really hard to know who has the biggest pop
And he
because
hangs
of the
out-
bias that Mum has.
I'm
right?
not the golden
He's-
child.
Remember, we were discussing his Ollie training. He goes down to Kenny Park and just sits on the flat. He puts the music from Flashdance on. I'm a Maniac, I think it is. He puts that on, wears a headband, and he sits there like Ollieing on the still, like just Ollieing.
I don't
and
even
like,
go.
harder.
I just go next to the park on the grass.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a bit on the concrete.
Okay,
It's a bit
so
slippery.
so I asked her another big question, all right? And I was listening to you guys talking about how we judge comps and that the other day. You know, technical tricks,
Yeah, I'm not sure about the answer here.
style.
You're reading, don't you?
Hang on a second.
No,
I can't
well,
read.
you can't read.
I can't
I said-
read, so.
Yeah.
Who
How's
had
your
the
nine
biggest,
going?
who had the best style? And she was very quick to answer this. She said Grant. And I said, why?
Thanks,
and she
Mum.
said, and I'm not fucking making this up, she said, a little bit embarrassed, she said, Dean has kind of a girly spazzy hand.
Oh, she pointed that out to me yesterday. We were looking at skate photos and Dean's
There's a
kind
hand.
of.
But what about the tongue?
Got-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got the tongue. Like that's a
tongue out.
given. Like that's not a good photo to show it, but to show one of the other photos where you can see my
No, that
indie grab.
the Indie Bone Air one, if you can find that.
Yeah,
quickly.
indie
Yeah, that's
bone.
sick
You'll see it
photos.
Got
consistently,
the
and you'll
tongue
see the
hanging.
hand as well.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. The hand is there, but that's because what I'm doing is waving to my brother in the background, going, "See ya," because he's like never going to get close. So.
One of the gayest things you've ever said. The hand and everything. See ya. Dude, that just proves that says a
Now,
lot.
I did not make
Actually,
that shit
no.
up, all right? That's what your
But
mum
even,
said.
even
All
Pete,
right.
Okay, so next one.
okay.
Okay, so
I can only blame them.
hang on. She said she went on to say she's very proud of both of you of what you've done, yeah, in skateboarding.
Thanks, Mum.
Thank you, Mum. We
but-
couldn't have done it without Mum
of course,
and Dad.
Yeah.
Their support in giving us the freedom to do what we did, and the obviously taking us places and stuff too. But you know, all of that they let us be
Was there a
us.
butt coming after that?
There was. She went on to say that she's very proud of you both. But if you can only try a little bit harder, Grant, you might be as good as her other son, Dean, one day.
There's the finish. There's the finish.
I can't believe
There's
Mum
always
would
that
do me like
finishing move at the end that Mum knows how to just deliver.
She does.
Just the blow straight to the heart.
Yep.
Like that's pretty harsh, Mum. I mean, I come over yesterday for your birthday, and I was polite and everything. But
Some of these
now
things are true,
this has
and
come
some
out.
of them I may have made up. Yeah, but the spazzy hand I didn't make up,
No.
and I didn't make up the pop thing.
literally,
either.
I'm not
Like,
making it up. Mum pointed that out to me yesterday. We're looking at a skate photo
I've got
of you,
her genes.
and Mum started.
So
But it was funny. Like Pete asked me last week, I was here buying a new board because the place to buy your boards, Goliath, is the place to go.
Excellent.
And the reason that you had to buy a
seriously, hang
board
out
was
with Pete.
because you broke another one.
Broke another one.
How many times have I come in with a broken board, Pete?
Never.
I was over radical. It was
Big
Bolts.
disasters. Big
Bolts.
disasters.
But
Gonna say.
bolts. but Pete asked, like, is there a trick that you guys do, and who does it better? But you know what? I thought about it. We barely do the same trick.
No.
Like apart from ollies, like something. I'll be better at frontside. Dean will be better at backside. I'll do a mute grab. Dean will do a melon or an indie. Or like it was. We were always. It's so strange, and that's one of the things I also love about skating.
I don't think we didn't do that deliberately at all.
No,
either.
no.
That was just the way it worked out. And like, I once saw you do a frontside decker slide, but I'll do those all the time. And once I saw you do it, I'm like, oh, what? He just did one of those tricks. Like, it's weird, isn't
Because
it?
I can do it. I just don't want to.
He
Show
does
you
it.
up.
I've
But
seen him
because
do it.
Mum would get upset if I start
That's how he
pulling them out in
breaks
front of you.
his boards.
But
Actually, yeah, but not
how
a
he
slide
breaks
one.
No, the slidey ones. He does slidey ones.
Not the breaky board
He
one.
just big
But-
poppy ones that snap like that.
Yeah, they're the breaky board ones.
yeah, the
breaky
breaky
ball
ball ones. But even that, like just the point of us two being brothers, skating together all the time, but doing like opposite tricks. Like it kind of points to the whole thing about skateboarding, which I really, really love. Most sports have a defined thing. Like you play footy, you learn the skills, you kick a ball, you pass a ball, you can short pass, long kicks, there's defined little skill levels. But everyone goes to a skate spot and hits the park differently. Everyone's got a different trick, a different strength. Like you could look at a curb and think of a completely different thing. And some of the tricks, like I see Dean do a trick and I'll go, oh yeah, I'll give that a go. My body just goes, no, you can't, you don't work that way. You're not going to turn that way. And he'll do it easily. And then, certain tricks I do that he won't do. But that's the thing about skating. It's just so diverse. Diverse cultures, diverse tricks. It's just so free-flowing. It's cool.
Yeah, skateboarding is so rad like that. There are no rules, and everyone's accepted. You can do it this way, that way, whatever. And it's, it comes in so many shapes and forms. And I said recently to Pete about how it just continues to progress. You see there's got to be an end, but no, there's never an end.
No,
it just
not.
keeps on going. There's just still another thing, and then there's
Dudes
how
are
does a
doing
spot then come out of
ridiculous
nowhere all of a sudden? That's been there forever, and all of a sudden it turns into a spot because of a new angle of trick or whatever. It's just amazing. It still blows me away day in,
Watching
day
that
out.
guy, is it Motoshiba? That guy, the Japanese
guy?
Yeah? Freak.
Yeah.
Just freak. Just some of the tricks he's doing, freak.
Yeah.
If Pedro Barros, bigger,
Oh,
faster,
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That Clay Craner thing the other day was
Clay Craner,
oh,
yeah.
my God.
There's
Yeah,
too many.
Clay
There's
is a
too many
really-
amazing things going on. It's crazy,
yeah.
And it's great now because the girls are into it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some rad female skaters these days.
Yeah.
It's like there was always a few kicking around, but some
a
of the
lot, man.
girls
There's-
these days are killing it.
There's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah,
It's pretty amazing.
yeah.
And there's an army of them coming in out of China for the Olympics.
I thought you were going to say there's an army of them coming out of Hobart, out of
They
shit
make
sheds, but there's a
They've
lot of
made them,
girls
have
down
they?
there.
They've made them over in
A
China.
guy I know, George, was over there. He was coaching, and they all had the same boards, the same clothing and stuff. And then he stuck a Goliath sticker on one kid's board and took a photo and sent it to me. And I don't think that kid's in the program
government,
anymore.
yeah, the government killed.
Yeah,
Yeah, don't be
He's
different.
gone.
Missing. That one we're missing. Now, listen, I think
Was that racist?
we're
Sorry.
probably running
I don't know.
running out of time now. We're getting to the end of our time. Yeah, it's been great to have you guys on to take the piss out of you, but also hear your story about your side of skating in
our
Melbourne.
journey.
I think
Yeah.
we missed a whole bunch.
There's
in the
still
middle,
so
but there's
much.
no, there's no
It's
way.
like
to do
We
it.
might just have to get you back around a special topic.
I'd like
We could do
to. I'd
that.
like to thank you guys.
I can't believe that
particularly
Pete's
Dean.
been here and hasn't actually hardly said a word.
Well,
Yeah, I
That's
know.
no,
the quietest he's
I
ever
know,
been.
Very
I know you
difficult to
really
interrupt,
well,
what can I
and
say?
I really wanted to hear the story. I really wanted to hear. I wanted to let that.
Surely
happen.
you've got some questions though that you
Well,
haven't heard yet.
I've
'cause
got to thank you for you, from
Right.
all the Melbourne skaters.
Thank
From
you.
your
Melbourne.
time at the Commonwealth Bank when they won a cheque, and Dean would cash it straight away.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they'd rock in on a Monday, and they'd be like, "Come on, fella, come on."
It was
Was it a
some
big
good
check
times
like
there.
this? Did he come in with a big check like that? Can you take my check?
Maybe a couple
50
of them
bucks.
tried the big cheque, you know.
Yeah, there was some funny times there. I used to spend some time on a Friday afternoon in the office, and I'd always blank it out so no one would interfere. And Paulie Turner would come in after the Thursday night at Goo, and he would have some stories to tell. And sometimes I'd be a little bit busy, so I said, "I'll just," he was an artist, so he'd draw pictures and stuff. And I've got the Paul Turner file at home.
On the deposit slips?
Yeah, no, I gave him proper paper.
Oh, wow.
And some of the art that he's put on there is horrific, as well as hilarious. And so there were some good times at the bank. And I remember even like I worked at 367 Collins Street, which had a great set of stairs out the front. And I would come out the front and literally put my board down and skate away to, go home. And everyone else is walking out with their briefcases and stuff. And I'm just like, fucking nerds. So yeah, it was a very different thing. I'd come to work some, mornings limping or whatever. I couldn't sit down properly.
That's
after.
Yeah, and they never knew why. They could never understand it, And
Fight Club can't talk about it.
there was that occasion where I had to get a special pillow to sit on because I burned my ass at Richie's house.
Was that after you went to? After you went to Pride in Sydney? Was it?
No, it was at Richie's house. We were a bit drunk and I got burned.
That was one of the few times Dean got drunk. You can pretty much bet
story's
Dean
not getting any better.
ever got drunk. He went from it was a light switch from okay to Darrow. And it was a very defined thing. It was so quick. It was like he'd just be like, "Oh yeah, this is grouse. I'm not even getting drunk," and he'd scull something, and you just sit there and go, "Fuck, I could start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5," and then he'd just go, "Hey!" and it was on. It was always something.
You were talking about a naked session at Warrnambool or something.
Oh, Warrnambool was crazy. We did a few skate tours that were pretty crazy, and Warrnambool was one of them because Warrnambool was Easter weekend, and we went to Warrnambool on the first day, on the Friday there.
Southern Guns.
And what's that?
Southern Guns, was it?
No, I don't.
Shop?
We didn't go to a shop. No. We went to the skate park, skated, and then went to the local bar, the local club, and it was like a $2 entry fee or something, and it was either the entry fee or that they didn't want to let us in, one of the two. And so we were like, let's just go around the back and climb in the back and find a way in. And actually Grant and Matt Maunder went in.
Yeah, we happened to...
They were the two sort of...
The top window may have been open or something. we ended up in there, and it was a storage for all their liquor. So it was basically flaggers, 2-litre bottles of everything. So we were like, we might as well not go into the bar anymore. We'll just sort of take some of this stuff. So we kind of dropped all this stuff off the roof and got all the guys, hey, come here and just grab some of this. And
it was relocated.
Yeah, it was relocated.
Relocated.
Once again.
We liberated some alcohol.
So, hang on, if it was going to be relocated, did you drop it? And did you call your mum the next day?
No, I had my car at that point.
Dean had his car
I threw it in the boot, and then we drove the car back to the skate park where we were sleeping for the night. We literally were just sleeping wherever we could next to the
That was the old days of skate trips.
That also sounds a bit Darrow. Can I just say that?
No.
You would just all try and sleep in the one car. Seriously, whoever thought that was going to work?
And then we went back, messed around up there.
You actually got in later.
Some of you guys stayed and skated naked. I didn't skate naked. I was back messing around up there. And then by the time I got back, there were people in my car and I had to sleep on the ground.
Yeah.
And then we had to go home. It was Easter weekend, but we had to go home the next day because Steve had to work. Yeah. So the sensei's gone off to work.
So Donatucci, got a shout out to Donatucci.
Stevie Donatucci.
Donatucci is a ripper.
Legend out the Gladstone Parkway, and then we picked him up from work and drove straight off to Phillip Island for the next Monday, the Sunday night and the Monday, and we finished off those flagons of alcohol. And I wasn't much of a drinker, as Grant has kind of alluded to there, and so they would put vodka and Fanta, and so I'd have some of that. And I'm like, this tastes like Fanta, so I just kept going like that. And then they'd put some bourbon and Coke, and I'm like, that just tastes like Coke, and just down in that.
It's not doing nothing.
It's not doing it. I didn't realise that you meant to take it a little bit slower, and within half an hour, I downed a whole bunch of alcohol, and as you'd imagine,
going
the body
from a non-drinker to just sculling all this stuff. It was just amazing.
From a role model to kind of Dwayne Peters.
Yeah. And
pretty much.
It wasn't a good finish.
And I think I'd disappeared. I was around. There was a little resorty thing a few hundred metres around the road that had a pool, and I'd been around there with a few of the boys, and I did just a naked swim in the pool and did the nudie run back to the house. And I've come in, I'm all nude, and I've burst in the door, and I'm like, hey guys. And they're like, hey, your brother's over there throwing up. and oh yeah, it went even more downhill after that. So look, that weekend was
debaucherous.
epic.
The way that Grant described the nudie run that he did so casually is because he did often do nudie runs. That was not uncommon at all. And Phillip
There was a
Island was
few.
a big part of it. You ran down the pier and all that stuff.
Actually, someone was getting chased by the cops that night. They went and jumped off the pier, and the cops were had the car there with a light, trying to find where they were. They had to do the run through all the bushes up the hill. And I think it was Mavey or someone in his boxes, because we had his clothes.
That's true.
And
Mavey and
he was running around in the bushes.
yeah, the Murphys. We had lots of other skate tours interstate. So my very first one wasn't long after I got my first car, and I went up to Sydney, and I had Geordie Cole with me. I can't remember who
Jim
else.
had a carcass in the other car?
No, that was a
that
different
time?
trip.
No, it was
No, a different trip. And I remember going up, and the windscreen wiper broke, and on the driver's side, so I couldn't see what was going on. So as you do, you kind of try to work around the situation, and I had a squeegee. I'd stolen a squeegee from the petrol station.
No, you'd repurposed
And so,
the squeegee. You
I mean,
borrowed a
I didn't.
squeegee.
Yeah. They allowed me to take it further than their driveway, and I was just driving up at 110 k's an hour on the Hume Highway, just squeegeeing the front windscreen like that.
As you do.
And what was happening was I was getting more wet inside,
Hang
and
on
I
just a
probably
second.
should have got
What
away with it.
Don't you teach defensive driving courses?
I do now, and I used all of my.
He's learned a lot.
I learned.
Yeah.
Do you use the squeegee technique?
Sorry,
Yeah.
I just sort of bring that in.
I had a few crashes and spin outs and stuff back in the
And
day
that's one of the
that I
things you
used
say,
to learn.
don't do this when you're driving.
Yeah.
Oh, no, usually now it's don't do what my brother does. That's,
Right.
He's the main topic in discussions for that. So
I actually went and did one of the courses and basically got heckled the whole way through. It was pretty awesome. I thought it was
it's
quite
hard
funny.
to be heckled from the person presenting, but he got that.
Yeah.
So I do defensive, but also performance driving, and I think some of that was
Squeegee and non-squeegee?
Non-squeegee,
Performance driving?
Yeah.
The performance driving is funny because back in the day, I had my little hotted up Corona, and I'd just go for a burn around the streets at night. And the next morning, Mum would come to me and go, "Oh, Fangio was driving around the street last night." I'm like, "You mean Fangio was here in East Keilor?" She goes, "Yeah, I heard him go past." And I'm like, "Fuck, really?" She'd go, "Dean, it was you."
Yeah, right.
You know, like she just would take the piss out
You
of me
would pull up
totally.
in the driveway like at any time of the night and like roll up the driveway, put it in neutral, give it a rev before he turned it off.
That's
Just awesome. It
That's
is true.
what a professional driver
Was that,
do,
was that
isn't
the
it?
blue Datsun, was
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
It's a Toyota Corona,
Toyota.
yeah.
Oh, was that?
The Corona, the
sorry.
Demo King car.
I didn't pay that much attention. I've never,
Speaking of demo,
never been
we
into
haven't even
cars.
touched on that. Fuck, there's a whole topic there.
Yeah.
So the skate tours. We went to Adelaide. That was a debaucherous one as well, where
Adelaide,
that was
God,
that was
that
crazy because that was just after I'd burned my ass, right? So the week before I burned my ass.
Timeline.
And I've got this
burnt ass. Burnt after
L-shaped
burnt
burn
ass.
on my ass, right? And I can't sit down all week. So I drove across to Adelaide
burnt
with
ass
this
after-
leg up like that on the dash, driving like that, and then because this was the burn side. And then in the room, we would always just get a room and say, yeah, there's only two people in there. And then we would get the bed, put the mattress on there, and someone would sleep on the mattress, someone would sleep on the base, the others would sleep on the floor and the couch, whatever. And so we'd just put 8 dudes in the room, we're paying for 2. And so I'm laying on this little fold-out bed thing, and I'm sleeping with my undies pulled up my ass so that my burn's not getting thing, and my ass is
He
up
was
in the
asking
air.
me to put the gel on his ass.
Yeah, you're on your own.
I don't think I'm going to be involved in that one.
Yeah, and we'd been out going crazy dancing at this club. He was doing backflips off the little stage, and everyone's going crazy. And
You're so shy, aren't you?
yeah,
Oh,
and I'm back
delicate
there at the
flower.
hotel sleeping, and then all of a sudden, again, you and Matt Maunder keeps coming up with the nasty stuff, but you both come home, and there were some other people with you who were not of the male persuasion, but and they weren't the
that
trannies.
time.
You weren't into trannies at that time. And I'm trying to sleep. I'm trying to be as inconspicuous as possible with my ass out in the air while
With
this
your
other
pants
activity
right
is
up your
going on
crack.
around the room, and that was quite crazy. And
You know what? I don't think I even realised you were in the room until the next day. But anyway, and then the other one of those was Maunder again. We'd pilfered a bottle of something from behind the counter at a bar we were at, and we all come back to the hotel, and everyone was already quite drunk, and we're all just having a swig out of this thing, pass it on, swig out of this thing, and all of a sudden everyone's like, I'm going to be sick. So we've all gone outside.
Hey, can I just say I wasn't getting sick at this
Yeah,
one.
you
I
weren't.
wasn't
That
sick
time
on
you
this.
weren't sick.
No.
So I went outside, and I don't know who started it, and I sort of feel sorry for some people to this day, but we thought it was a good idea to vomit on people's bonnets, windscreens. And I remember kneeling on someone's bonnet, vomiting on their windscreen, and looking over and seeing Richie or Donatucci or Maunder or someone.
It was Donatucci.
And they were there
And
going,
Richie.
"Ah!" And I started laughing, and this vomit just filled my nose and everything. It was just the dumbest thing. It was like that episode of Family Guy where they drink that stuff and they're all just going, "Bah!" and look at each other. "Ah!" And we were just on these people's bonnets, and I had like chunks of vomit stuck in my nose until the next day I was like trying to get it out. But anyway, that was kind of one of those times
you
where
do.
you
Yeah.
do it. Some of the things we've done, I just look at it and go, why? Why? Like, you can't think of a thought pattern that would have led to that being an idea.
Alcohol
Yeah.
and, mates and
It would have been
things
the
like
other
that.
one.
Usually,
Just-
There was
Yeah.
another Adelaide one, and someone put that picture on Facebook the other day of us going over. There was Ralph,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Donatucci, Richie, maybe
the demo king photo.
Very chilly.
the one with the Demo King
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
sticker on the car. And so I hired this car from the city, and by the time I'd got to the Epsom Road roundabout, which is near where I live now, I go around the roundabout, I was in the wet, and I'm driving it sideways around the roundabout, come out of the roundabout, and down the road there's a cop.
Defensive
and I'm
driving
like,
teacher.
shit.
Driving.
I pull over, and they'd got me speeding. They didn't get me doing the hoon stuff. So I'd pulled over before they even put their lights on. I was like, I'm done. So he gives me a ticket. We stick it on the dashboard. We drive over to Adelaide. In Adelaide, I get a speeding ticket. On the way back, we've got to get the car back to the airport where we rented it from before like 11 p.m. or something. Driving along, and there's only one other car on the highway coming the other way. And I look in the mirror, and he does his handbrake turn and comes after us. I'm like, fuck. And then we go again. Cops pull us over. Third ticket in a weekend. That car had been trashed by my mate Will over in Adelaide, and he'd gotten every piece of fruit and vegetable you can get from the market and put it in every orifice of the car, under the windscreen
jammed in
wipers, in
everywhere.
every hole, in everything.
Pulled like vent covers off and
Yeah.
shit as well. And, there's
And the
stuff
cops
on
have
them.
the cops have pulled us up, and they're looking at the car going, "What's going on?" And we're like, my friend did it." And they go, "Did your friend drive it through the market?" We're like, no, he's just stuck it everywhere, and there's stuff hanging off it. And that was the hardest thing to explain to the cops, how our car got so trashed. But next time we went back to Adelaide, we had a big van and another bunch of mayhem. We pulled up at the lights, and Will's parked 2 cars ahead of us, and he sees the doors open, and he just takes off at a red light. And then the person who was next to us had a car in front of them. They just saw him move and drove and crashed straight into the back of the car in front of them. And we're all hanging out of the car just going, you fucking... All the stuff we were going to throw at them, we just threw at the car that just crashed, and the guy's got his head... And then... Adelaide was great for tours, because then there was another one. Yeah, there was another one. It was around about the time when the Grand Prix was on or something, and the roads were closed. And this guy's trying to turn right where you're not meant to. There's no right turn. And we pulled up behind him like, come on, man. I bipped the horn. And he gets out and starts to come towards me. And we've got a car full of Melbourne guys in Adelaide. We're like, that's bullshit. Melbourne wins. So we all start getting out of the car. I didn't put it in park, so this thing's still... And I get out and I go up towards him, and then all of a sudden this rental car's crashed into the back of his car. And then I go to have a bit of a go at him, and in the front seat is his son. They've been to a fete, and he's got this little hamster on a wheel. And I'm like, fuck, Melbourne pride. And I just pushed him back get in the car, piss off, mate, leave us alone. And he did. He just bailed out. Didn't even worry about the crash. And so, Adelaide, we had some pretty crazy tours there.
Adelaide's pretty loose.
You asked one earlier on before we started the show about the dog in the tucker box. So we're heading up to Sydney or Canberra.
Yep.
And it was like 4 a.m, and we're like, dog in the tucker box. Boys, you want to see a dog in the tucker box? And they're all like, oh, yeah, okay. So we drive up to the dog in the tucker box, and unlike most other people that park in the car park, we just drove straight up to the dog in the tucker, like right up to it. But that was a garden bed. So, so at 4 a.m, we're going nowhere, we're stuck. We had to wait till daylight, and someone turned up, and we hailed them over and said, can you pull us out? And they're like, what are you doing over there? It was dark, we couldn't see, but really we were just being dickheads. So,
Starsky and Hutch.
yeah, there was some crazy stuff. And like every time we would take a car back to the rental, I was just like, shit, my deposit's gone. But got away with every time. There was
Yeah, I know. It
rims
was like a
busted
golden
and-
era of renting cars, wasn't it?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
could
There were
just
rims
trash it.
busted, and we'd pull off everything inside and stuff everything in the roof like old meat and shit, and just like,
Oh, it was
yeah.
it was pretty horrendous.
One of the meat was a funny one. Tony Hallam was with us one day at Sizzler. We used to go to Sizzler and smash that joint and just eat so much food, and we thought we were going to put him out of business, which ended up actually coming true. But there was a time where we were eating. And Tony there was like this sort of a lowered roof and a bit of a gap, and he had this one chunk of steak, and he's like, I reckon I can throw this up there, flick it off the fork and get it up there. And so he has a go, and it goes boom and lands back down on the ground next to this family who are eating their meal, and this piece of steak just lands there, and they're all like, what? And Tony just, without missing a beat, gets his fork and knife and walks over and just picks it off the ground. No worries, and eats it. So there's some crazy stuff, and all of this comes from skateboarding. All of this is that connection that happens from skateboarding, that freedom of skateboarding, that confidence that skateboarding gives you, and with guys, you know, that we were just all on the same page, and we're just having so much fun together. And you were invincible. We were at that time. There was no doubt. We could turn up, like we went to Canberra, and some of the boys. No, it was Adelaide again. They waxed the entire bowl at Fulham.
You guys did.
No, I didn't. No, it was Mike Carney and those boys.
There you go.
Waxed.
It wasn't me, but I will Dobbin who it was.
Yeah. I have no idea how they had that much wax, but they waxed the entire bowl and just ruined the place. So because they turned up and were like, "Oh, this is pretty shit," and they just waxed the bowl to make up for it.
Imagine Zach turning up there.
Yeah, he'd be happy with
No,
that.
he wouldn't escape. It was a little bowl, so they just
yeah.
But there was some crazy stuff like that, and all because we just had momentum behind us. We're like, yeah, we're all on the same page. We're all doing
Seems
this.
like a good idea at the time.
Yeah.
No, it still sounds like a good idea now. It was fun. I mean, I would not take any of that away. Like all of that was such
Part of the journey.
part of the journey.
Right. I am going to suggest that you two guys think of who you'd like to have interviewed.
Oh, no.
We've actually thrown this around a little bit
I-
between each other.
That's great.
We kind of talked about it a little bit. Where did we end up? There was a
pick who
few
you want.
names.
I've got so many different names in my head, and that's the hardest thing about it. Is there's some people that I was trying to think of some different type of people. I mean, you could say the Tony Hallams, you could say the Renton Millers and stuff like that.
Callum's got to be in there.
Yeah, but I'm sure they'll come
Renton's gotta be
along.
in
But
there.
I'd like to hear some other stories from people's perspectives that you would not like, because I know those guys a little bit more. So I'd like to hear some of the guys I don't know as well.
Yeah.
So one of the people I was thinking of was Darren White.
Okay.
Yeah.
Know that name.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. He's been around a lot and done a lot with skating, and skate park now is one of his things. A bit younger than me and a little bit of a different time frame. So if you're looking at like a Shane George, and then there's our time frame, and then there's that next time frame, then you might fill in some gaps in that sort of era as well. So yeah,
Can you help us get him?
I'm sure he'll be right to do it.
I've been skating with him
He
recently.
lives over
actually.
here somewhere.
Okay, great.
Yeah, he lives close. Yeah,
He lives
yeah.
close.
No.
Yeah, he's
nice.
a cool dude. He's pretty easygoing and stuff. So
Very good.
Yeah.
So there's like seriously a massive list of dudes that I would love to hear from, but let's stick with that because otherwise it'll get blown away. So yeah.
You happy with that one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
he
there
might
was
have someone
someone else. I'm trying to remember who it
You
was that
mentioned
we
him
had.
earlier today. 40 for 40.
Ah, Stoyles.
Yeah, you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stoyles would be
And
a
again,
good
would
one
be a
because
similar
Stores
era.
would be awesome.
yeah, he's kind of a similar era, but like in the slightly younger era than us. So like he was just behind where we were, and you know, doing what he's doing today as well. Like he's still right into it and everything like that. Still
Brilliant.
connected with the scene. There was someone else as well that we talked about that I can't quite remember now. No, there's probably 100 more really.
They're two good names. They're two good names to go.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about names. There are so many people that I've met over the years that are, again, they're still great friends and people that I would, I really wanted to try to mention them today, but there's just so many different conversations to try to remember all of the names.
And as kind of think Aaron's kind of said before in some of his previous kind of interviews he's done with people, you know, an hour, you know, 2 hours,
Yeah,
whatever
you
it is,
can't.
you can't really. And we've got two stories to tell here.
We're talking
so it's
about
really difficult.
35 years of skating, you know,
Yeah.
35 years of a lifestyle, 35 years of meeting people and stuff. It's not going to happen in that short time frame. I'd like to make a quick mention to Lefty. He didn't get a mention so far. That was a young fella down at Paran Bowl. We were skating there one time. He wasn't a skateboarder. It was just some kid that Bogdan noticed over watching through the trees at the pool that was next to the bowl. And there was a lovely lady sunbaking there. She happened to be sunbaking on her side with her crack visible. She had her...
Front bum or backside
the
bum?
front bum.
Front bum.
Yeah, she had it pulled to the side, her, bathers pulled to the side. And this young fella was taking full advantage of that.
I can't remember who
you might
noticed it
imagine
first.
it was Bogdan.
He made the call though. It was like, I think someone spotted and went, fuck, check this guy out. And he was going for it in the bushes. And I remember Bogdan just turning around and go, oh, look, he's a lefty. Just it was clear as
Was
just...
Bogdan a left-handed?
No, Bogdan.
No, okay, right, I was just checking. Attentional bias, you would
It
pay
was
attention to a lefty if you were a lefty.
Just the call.
He was,
and it was deadpan.
Not happened did he happen to be a pervert, but he was a left-handed pervert,
Left-handed,
which then makes him in that small
that was the
bracket
thing I
of
thought was
perverts.
the funniest thing was like, out of the whole scenario, he wasn't like,
just-
hey, what are you doing, you wanker? He was like, he's a lefty.
He's a lefty.
Like he's taking a positive out of it, you know, like that's...
Well,
He's
isn't that
breaking,
strange?
he's breaking the barriers
Yeah.
of the left and right, you know, like that old days where you weren't allowed to be left-handed. He's now.
Oh my God.
And then true to
Old.
form, we just kept skating.
Yeah.
We chased the kid out though. For,
Oh, yeah, he got chased a bit.
yeah,
but
and then had a look ourselves.
Did he come back?
I don't think so.
No, he
I
definitely
don't
didn't.
think that would have been a good
No,
idea.
there was a few.
Every hot day.
There's a few.
Every odd day.
There's a few other chase scenarios and fights and stuff like that happen. Not fights, but kind of angst kind of things. Obviously, security guards.
Security guards.
Back in the day, especially being skaters, it was like, you skegs. Yeah, just any
yeah,
pack of
yeah.
wogs, any pack of bogans.
I was
didn't know
in
you
Ballarat,
could
I was a
chase.
poofter.
A poofed up.
Yes, I was a poofter because I had long hair and didn't wear acid wash.
footy clothes.
and things, yeah, so
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
basically open season.
Acid
Yeah,
wash.
Yeah, acid wash, yeah. So.
High-waisted acid wash.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming along and telling your stories. It's been really, really entertaining.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having
appreciate
us. And again, thanks to Aaron, for props, Aaron.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the crew.
And the
Crew that are all
doing a good
there,
job.
helping behind the scenes.
But really, to have this medium sort of pop up, to have people tell their stories, I honestly, other people's stories may be way more worthy than ours, I feel. But even after hearing Shane's the other day, I was like, oh, holy crap, we got to follow that. That was some pretty epic storytelling through such a vibrant sort of section of life and with such vibrant people. And ours was vibrant in a different way, so I guess it's all right. So I appreciate the chance to come and sort of do this. It's a humbling experience, and hope we've told a bit of a story that was at least amusing for people.
Well, as Aaron's kind of said before, we're trying to get everyone's different side of the stories because different ages, different types of skating, different locations, different people.
And even between Grant and I, our stories are very different. You know, even though we did skate together a lot, there are times we didn't skate together a lot. So there are other things that we haven't been able to touch on today that are even more detailed to me or detailed to him, and that's what skating's about. And it has been great to be able to come and share some of that, and because there has been so many people and experiences over the years that have influenced where we've ended up now, and that's been fantastic. And it's unfortunate we can't mention every one of those guys who have been a part of it, but they're
A lot of them.
you guys all know who you are because you've been there, you know me, you've still in touch with me, most of you, so it's been great that you've been a part of it, and thank you guys and
the
Aaron
Penguin.
again for putting it on.
The Penguins.
We didn't even get to that
We
era.
didn't even get to Penguin at all, really. And
Another
to this day, you just drop in, visit the Penguin, and it's just not a day has passed. You're in the middle of that time. There's just so much history there that he's been involved in and we've been involved in along the
The
way.
ironic thing today is we turned up to have a chat, and normally we turn up for a 2-minute thing, pick up a board, pick up a wheels or whatever.
That ends up being
an
2
hour
hours.
because the Penguin talks for an hour.
Yeah.
But today it's been us doing the talking.
Oh, yeah,
and it's been amazing to hear how quiet he is. It's actually quite
I've
surprising.
never-
So,
I'm loving
folks, he does have a silent patch. It's very rare, but we
Very
found
rare.
it today.
Get
So
the right people in.
He's listening.
yeah. And
No, it was good.
No, but the support that you've provided to not just us. I don't want to say us because you've provided support to skateboarding, and it is a passion that you have about it. You don't, like, it's not one of those big shops and stuff. You do the thing for the core guys, and that's really amazing to see. But added to that is people like Aaron doing the putting this out there and making this medium happen, and that's fantastic because there are stories like ours and everyone else that's going to come along and do theirs, and people that have been before, who the stories are so valuable and so rich and so they're entertaining, and it'd be sad if that didn't get recorded, didn't get put somewhere, didn't get shared, or was only held between those guys themselves. Like, it's amazing that we can share this to a wider audience and say, hey guys, this is our experience in skateboarding, and everyone's going to be different, and that's the beauty of skateboarding. But at the end of the day, we're all skateboarding.
Well, opening up the conversation to hear people's stories, but then also finding out stuff you didn't know, and then maybe wanting to know more about it is another thing. So we can sort of then maybe start to sort of interview even people around other topics or particular areas we want to know more about.
Hearing Shane's interview the other day, there were bits that he was involved in behind the scene where I was sort of coming up, and I'd go to the comps and whatever, and didn't even realise it was him behind it. Like, I always knew him. He was always around the scene. Like, with old photos popped up that he had taken of me and Dean back, 100 years ago, and didn't realise that he was that involved behind it all. I think Dean knew a bit more about it.
There's a nose wheelie.
Fancy that.
Is that a Paran nose wheelie?
That's Paran. I'd nose wheelie around the whole bowl.
I thought you nose wheelied to Richmond.
Pretty much. But yeah, hearing some of that stuff, and that's where part of my stuff kind of left off out of the scene, and Dean kept going. He was a bit more involved with. He always got involved more with the industry and the people and all that kind of stuff. I'd come in and skate and disappear and a little bit more, but yeah, just hearing all that is a rich tapestry.
It's pretty good,
that was kind of weird because I did get in the industry a bit more, but I wasn't into the industry that much. Like, I was, for example, that Victorian Skate Association, I was the treasurer because I worked at the bank. They made me the treasurer. I had no idea about that.
That makes sense. Bank, treasurer.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Play Monopoly once, treasurer. There you go.
And things like, and with Gregor and all that, and with Hardcore, they got me to do stuff for them and things industry-wise. But I just wanted to skate. That was kind of byproduct of the skateboarding and the connections that it gave, the network that it developed. And then that progressed into the stuff that I did with Yodgies and things, and that crazy ass comp at Mooney Ponds that had the car and all that sort of stuff. So there was some and a lot of stuff with councils and things like that. I remember there was a council that it was in Carlton. They were looking to build a skate park at the exhibition buildings area there, and these local kids turned up and go, "Oh yeah, we need curbs." And I'm sitting there going, "Are you fucking crazy? You got the best curbs in the world." They had the best curbs, those big yellow block curbs. And I'm like, "You want to build a skate park when you got the curbs already there? You want to build a skate park with curbs?" Like, that was weird.
Remember the Footscray Community Centre? No, the Kensington Community Centre.
Yeah. No, was it the Ascot Vale one?
No, there was one that we went to, and they gave us some money to build some ramps or something, and we started building this little spine quarter pipe in a hall, and we built it. And I think
it was near the Footscray footy ground. That little hall there, wasn't it?
We did little demos there. We ended up with. No, this was in Kensington.
Oh, I know the one on Stubb Street.
Yeah.
Near the Commission Flats.
Yeah, and I can't remember. Yeah. I don't know if you were there, but we built like this spine quarter pipe in this hall, and I was at one stage on there, and I'm going, guys, I don't know if this is going to fit out the door, and someone's like, no, fuck, she'll be right. Kept building the thing until it was in skatable stage, like full two-sided spine, like 8 foot wide or something like that, maybe 4 foot high. And I was just like, fucking no chance. And we took it over to the door to try and get it out. There was no fucking way. It was like 1.5 foot too long. It was ever getting out that door.
You didn't design that one.
Never went back. I don't know what happened to that ramp to this day, but it was kind of like, okay, we'll see you guys later.
I remember.
And out of there.
I remember the day a vert ramp hit the Montague Street Bridge. That's a story for another day.
I think everything's hit that bridge, I think.
Yeah, everything.
Anyway, yeah.
We were meant to finish up, but it's now, we keep on talking.
That's all right.
We can keep going because there's so many things, but thank you to everyone who's helped us get to this point. Thanks for you guys for hosting the interview and all the team back there who've put it on, and it's been fantastic. I mean, they've stood there for 2 hours or whatever it is listening to this, so at least 4 people heard us.
At least we've
got an audience. I count that as an audience.
At least we're pretty comfy.
All right. Which camera are I saying goodbye on, Aaron?
that one. All right, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us. Thanks to all these guys for your fantastic stories. I hope you've learned something, and we look forward to interviewing more people. And hopefully we'll be able to get you guys back for something else, and Pete, of course, always. So thanks for listening to their side, and listen to it on your car, listen to it on your phone. Just get amongst the stories and be part of it.
Deck.
Well, what?
While you're washing your deck.
Washing your dick. All right.